This week on Barbell Shrugged, we put together a special collection for New Year's.
A series of the most motivating, inspirational moments from show history. We know you're going to love it. Check it out. First up on this show, we have the master of self-experimentation, Tim Ferriss. Tim was pretty awesome to meet, man, because he had a big influence on actually why we ever started the show.
Yeah, that's true. He had a big influence on pretty much how I designed pieces of my life and the business, but also was a huge influence on Chris being able to break away from his corporate gig on Wednesdays.
Yeah,
so
snuck out my job on Wednesdays so I could free up time to get with my best friends and talk about training. So Tim, thank you. Check out this segment. You're going to love it.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Mike Bledsoe, standing here with Doug Larson and Chris Moore, CTP behind the camera. We have traveled up to Malibu to hang out with Mr. Tim Ferriss.
Tim, welcome, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming up.
If you don't know who he is, go pick up his books, 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef, 4-Hour, what's next?
4-hour nap.
4-hour nap. Once you split your day up in these 4-hour segments.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Tim is one of the things that fascinated about me about you is that you serve, you're always doing self-experiments and tweaking from there. And I don't think that's much different than what we've all done, but you've documented it, put it in books, and kind of shared with the world like what works for you.
Right, and it's always been a compulsion of mine. I think that it started with wrestling in high school, and I was born premature, so my thermoregulation has always been off. And what that meant was I would overheat, and I could only really give it my all for the first period or so, maybe the second period. So I got very good at cutting weight, and towards the end of my sort of high school career, got to the point where I was cutting 20 to 30 pounds twice a week to compete.
Wow.
Which is obscene and not very safe, particularly if you don't monitor certain things. So I became very familiar with sodium, potassium sparing, diuretics, and things of this type, so that I could do it the more intelligent way, and also rehydration, right? Because dehydration is just one piece of it. So then how do you rehydrate intelligently?
A hell of a lot harder in high school wrestling than MMA, where you got 24 hours. What do you have, 2 hours maybe sometimes?
Yeah, or you might have to step right on the mat, in which case, depending on the regulations, that would change your strategy for cutting weight and rehydrating.
Yeah.
So it could just be a handful of hours. And then it's like, all right, well, why is Pedialyte better than Gatorade? And what are the reasons? You have to delve into the science, and you have to log, for instance. One of the things that I did, which I think is kind of representative of my style of experimentation, it's not my style, it's just, I think, a good competitive practice, is that I would practice cutting weight for practices so that I could see the performance impact. In other words, I wouldn't do my experiment on game day, and a lot of people mess this up. I mean, it's just,
do that.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lifters do it. MMA fighters do it.
I know a ton of MMA fighters that only cut weight for their fights, and they don't practice it one single time.
Yeah, or they take
disaster.
or they take Nubane, or they take some type of stimulant right before the fight. They've never used it in training. They end up overheating.
I have athletes who are like, oh, should I take this supplement today? And it's like competition day. I'm like, have you ever taken it before? They're like, well, no. I'm like, no.
I always remember the guy who
No,
took the
you
red
should.
line.
Yeah.
Never
It's
take a red line before a meet and have a heart attack on the platform.
Yeah.
We saw it happen to a dude.
Really?
Yeah, this, off-label,
Arnold.
whatever the hell they put in there.
Yeah.
Don't shove it down and then listen to Pantera at 11. Get yourself all hot and bothered for your opener, and then go out there and just pass out, or whatever on the platform.
Yeah.
Bad policy.
Exactly. So I think that experimentation, and we were chatting about this a little bit earlier, is really, it's just understanding the scientific method and controlling your variables. And an experiment isn't a success or a failure. You're either confirming or disproving a hypothesis, and that's it. And so my whole life, my whole writing career, all of my work with startups, all of it is really about testing, finding sort of absurd, outrageous hypotheses to test.
Yeah, so you're not just doing it with fitness, every aspect of your life.
Yeah, it's reflected in everything that I do. And there's a really good book, not mine, called Bad Science, written by a doctor named Ben Goldacre in the UK. And I actually excerpted one of his chapters for the 4-Hour Body and then condensed certain aspects of that book into yet another chapter. But it really goes through how media compels people to misinterpret science and how you can separate the noise and the nonsense, the fact from the fiction, and so on. Outstanding book. I really recommend it to people because you hear folks all the time say, X causes this. And when you read the articles, if you've read this book, Bad Science, you're like, there's no way they can prove that.
Right.
Absolutely no way whatsoever. And so very, very simple things like correlation versus causation. And I think what it helps you to do is learn how to not fool yourself. And one of my idols is Richard Feynman, who wrote a world-class physicist, won a Nobel Prize, also was part of the team, and he made the announcement, but who discovered the O-ring was the fatal flaw in the Challenger. That is passed below a certain temperature. And he said, the most important thing is to not fool yourself, and you're the easiest person to fool.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to live that code in their life.
Yeah, just getting good at testing your assumptions. It's like, okay, if you think that like A, B, and C are helping you, Pantera plus Redline plus this
keep the Pantera. Keep Pantera.
Keep Pantera.
Yeah.
I look more and more like Phil Anselmo every day.
5 minutes alone always does the trick on deadlift day.
You don't need to test it. It's just obvious.
Yeah, that's right. It's a given. It's a universal law. But getting good at just improving your thinking. And so the precision of your thinking is tied very closely to experimentation. It's like, oh, you think that works? Like, let's throw it against the wall and see what sticks. And actually measure it.
And I like that idea. Obviously, then I just latched on to like Elon Musk was in an interview talking about how do you do all these things, Elon? Shit, it's really impressive. He goes, so I always just, what would a physicist do? Go back to fundamental thinking. Like, drill down into the most fundamental thing you can't get past through, and then reintroduce complexity and variables from there, and always be going back to the foundation of source. Like, test everything, make sure this is true. It's probably not. Somebody says you can't do something, it's probably not the way it is.
Yeah, with respect to supplements, something like I don't think a lot of people consider is that if you take a supplement like creatine, for example, that's widely considered to be something that works, whatever that means, and it means a lot of different things. But it might not work for you, though. If it works for most people, that still isn't a guarantee it's going to work for you. It might not work for you at all. There's a large variety of people that are non-responders to something like creatine. So you still have to test it for yourself, even if it's generally accepted to work.
Or the other way around. So you have you have high responders, right?
Yeah.
And you'll look at a study, let's just say, and I also think the degree, the magnitude of the change that you need depends a lot on your level of competition. So, for instance, you could look at beet juice, right, or beetroot juice, and its effect on endurance.
Michael asked because he threw up on beet juice one time.
Yeah, you don't want to do like a beetroot cake stand or anything.
Like a beetroot raw egg smoothie, then you went and ran or something.
Yeah, like 104-degree heat on 4th of July in the park doing a CrossFit WOD. I yacked up raw eggs and beet juice.
Was that punishment for something?
It was
he thought it was a good idea.
It was one of those things. I woke up in the morning. I was out of a lot of typical ingredients. I was like,
So you throw up on the hill and go, I totally tested
and
and failed this
I'm
hypothesis.
throwing up all this red gooey stuff, and people around me are like, is Mike dying? It's like, nah, it's just beat juice.
That's horrible.
Well, Tim will tell you why to try it again.
Anyways, sorry, go ahead.
Well, if you look at the studies for beetroot juice, a lot of them show a non-statistically significant response. And just to give you an idea of how to think of this type of thing, it might be 10 elite athletes who are in this, it's an N of 10, and they look at the response, they're like, oh, it was only I'm making this up, it was a 5% improvement. It's not statistically significant. Well, it's like, hold on a minute. Or a 2%. Let's make it even like a 2% improvement, non-significant. And the reason that it's non-significant is you need a combination of magnitude of change, and then you need the sample size, right? And you can have a statistically significant study with very few people. That's a misinterpretation where people are like, oh, it's only 20 people. That study's bullshit. It's like, no. It depends.
If it's a super
if they double their
effect,
strength, that's significant.
Right,
but
right.
the study was underpowered. So you start to look at it and you're like, well, wait a second. Okay. Didn't have enough subjects, so it was underpowered. They would have needed like a 30% improvement to be statistically significant in the conventional sense. Plus, you're looking at elite athletes.
Yeah.
5%
Oh,
is
yeah.
meaningful, but what would the effect be on an untrained athlete, right? You look at creatine, for instance, great example. It's like you could load someone, take them through a phase of creatine, they could put on for the first time 10, 15 pounds of lean tissue, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it will be retention, water retention, but they'll get stronger. And that's another thing we could talk about, but like sort of intermuscular physics get really interesting when you start blasting out the sarcoplasm, like adding fluid to the cell.
Right. Yeah.
But the point being, beetroot juice can work, and it can work really well. And you only realize you can throw the baby out with the bathwater if you look at a lot of the reports of these studies, even from people who should know better. But to trade you a story where you're vomiting up beet blood in front of people, I remember I was doing an experiment with trans resveratrol. So people who drink red wine because they think it's good for them, it might be. Probably for the social relaxation benefit and not the life extension benefit.
Sure.
But people talk about resveratrol. And
It's an antioxidant for the audience.
Resveratrol is a component found in red wine that helps to turn on, as I understand it, a set of genes called the sirtuin genes, SIRTUIN. And those have been implicated for life extension.
Okay.
And there are different ways to turn those on and off. And but you'd have to drink like 48 cases of wine or something to really get like a clinically
This is gonna be hard to
noticeable effect.
Yeah.
Test experiment fired up.
Dose always matters.
Yeah, but what's really interesting about resveratrol is that it can be there. I found this video of this rat called Super Rat, and it was nicknamed Super Rat because they fed it massive quantities of resveratrol, and it doubled its endurance. And so they had a control rat and Super Rat. It might have been a mouse. And these scientists put up split screen video of this mouse getting exhausted and this one just going and going and going and going and set it to the Superman music. And I thought to myself, well, the life extension is really hard to test because you don't know until you die. It's very hard as an N of 1 to test that. But I was like, I could test the endurance. So I consumed what would be considered 60 days worth of trans resveratrol. So 2 huge bottles. Because I looked at sort of the milligrams per milligram of body weight that they use with the rats, and I just replicated it.
Yeah.
And so I downed 60 days worth of these pills.
This is a bold move, Tim.
Before one workout. So I just sat there and housed all these pills before one workout.
Oh my God.
And what I didn't realize, and then I got to the training facility. This was in South Africa, like a very sophisticated sports training center.
Yeah, they got huge sports science programs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize, and I found this out afterwards, is that one of the sort of inactive ingredients was left off of the label. This happens a lot with supplements. The inactive ingredient, and I'm still not 100% clear on why they do this, but they cut it into a lot of products. I think it was Amodin, and that's a laxative.
Oh boy.
So I was sitting down, getting the ground rules for this running test that I was going to be doing, and I just started sweating profusely,
like the sweats.
the fear sweats, where you're just like, God, this rancid just sheen of sweat coming out of me. And this sports doctor's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm great."
Did you tell him what you had done, or is this
No. I didn't tell him. I didn't want there to be any observer bias or anything like that.
I think there's a terrible evil within me.
Yeah. And so I was like, "Do you have a bathroom?" I cut him off mid-sentence and just I did one of these butt pinching waddles as waddle sprint down the hallway and did a sort of a reverse broad jump through the stall, and I was just
Oh, no.
I was total. I did the running test. Needless to say, I wasn't impressing anyone.
Sounds like those little baking soda studies, man.
Ugh.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Exactly. But experimentation, I think that this applies to people who are considering starting a business, people who are considering quitting a job. There are ways that you can experiment that are not necessarily binary, right? So you could, if you're thinking about trying to negotiate with your boss for a remote work agreement, you can gather data over, say, a Saturday, Sunday, looking at the number of hours required to complete client projects or whatever your metrics are that you're measured on. And you can gather that, and you can make a case for it, right? It's an experiment.
Yeah.
And so I view my life oftentimes as just a series of 2-week experiments. I find 2 weeks to be a good period of time for a lot of things. And they
That
certainly
technique works, by the way. I use.
Yeah.
I was in the 4-hour work week. Some version. I did that. I hate sitting here in this fucking cubicle. So one thing I started doing is just tracking some of those things. This reminded me. And I presented a case. So, yeah, I got the right to start working home. Like, not every other Wednesday at first and every week. And then slowly you kind of earn the trust, and then you show the data, and they let you do it. It's amazing how it works.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This shit works.
It does. It does work. And you can apply it certainly to all sorts of physical performance, whether that be, fat loss, blood testing. A lot of folks get very infrequent blood tests. I go through periods where I'll get blood tests every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Or do urinalysis every day.
Yeah, I'm between 6 weeks and 4 months for blood work right now.
Yeah, and you'll hear from there's some amazing doctors. Some of my best friends are doctors, but there are also a lot of really bad doctors. And there's an expression P equals MD, which is pass equals MD, and it's like there's just like you have the top 10% in the class, you have the lower 10% who barely scrape by.
Yeah.
And you'll hear oftentimes they're like, oh well, like these following markers aren't going to change for like 90 days, 100 days, 6 months. Like come back in 6 months, and I'll be like, it's just not true. Like you can change blood markers really, really quickly.
Just some things in your blood might take longer, but there's a lot of things that will happen really quick.
And some things take a longer period of time. I mean, if you're looking at, say, I think spermatogenesis has like a 60-plus day cycle. Maybe it's a 69 day, oddly enough, or 60 to 70 day cycle. So if you're looking at changes like that, you have to take those into account. But if you're looking at LDL, HDL, the first thing to realize is that those can change very quickly. The second thing to realize is that
Gust coming in off the coast of Malibu.
Yeah, it is very refreshing breeze. The second thing to realize is that those variables change all the time. So people who get an annual checkup and their doctor will say, "Oh my God, this is too high." Well, they shouldn't say, "Oh my God," but they'll say, "This is too high."
Jesus.
This is out of range, right? This is too low, too high. We're going to prescribe these medications. And the fact of the matter is, before you say go on statins, and I'm not a doctor, I don't play one on the internet, so work with your professionals, but you should verify that. Do it a second time. There's no harm. Pay the extra money if you have to. Verify before you go on a regimen of statins or anything else. Because I've seen people, for instance, who get testosterone replacement therapy, and their doctors have drawn blood at different times of the day.
Yeah.
That's a big problem because you could.
It's like stepping on the scale at different times of the day.
Oh yeah, it's especially when you're dealing with something that is released in the way that, say, testosterone is, or a growth hormone, for instance. I mean, which you would have to measure through a proxy, but with testosterone, you could see a difference of easily 100 points if you do it on a different day of the week and a different time of the day.
Yeah.
So let's say you do a testosterone test on a Monday after a hard weekend of drinking, and you test it at 10 o'clock when you usually wake up at 7, and then you compare that to a before test, which was a Wednesday at 7:30 in the morning or 8 in the morning. Oh my God! You're gonna think your balls have fallen off.
Yeah. We were talking with Kirk Parsley on an episode a couple weeks back, maybe a couple months back now, who I think you had connected with at some point, and he was saying if you can sleep deprive somebody, even just for one day, you might be able to drop their test by like 30%.
Oh yeah,
like it's an insane amount.
It wasn't
with
much
just one
sleep
night
deprivation
of sleep
too. It was like a couple hours off.
Yeah, it's easy. Same with cortisol. Like you can mess with all that stuff. So if you think you have a big problem based on one of those markers, verify the test. Replicate the result. I mean, that's what engineers do in tech, right? They try to replicate the bug. It's like, well, okay, cool. You're reporting a bug. If we can't replicate it, it's probably user error, right? Or it's not a problem. It's some type of glitch that you misinterpreted. So anyway, I could go on and on, but I think about that kind of stuff all the time.
With all your experimentation and I mean, the way I view you after reading some of your books is like you're real big on productivity and efficiency. What are some routines you do in the morning for that productivity and efficiency, and which supplements do you find are good for that?
So let me address this. I'll address the supplements first. The supplements are supplements. They're supplemental. So I don't take any supplements all the time. I think that's asking for trouble. And if you think there's no side effect, it just means you haven't identified the side effect.
Right.
So I take no supplements all the time. I cycle on and off of everything because I think that the body's very sophisticated with negative feedback loops. I am currently taking A few things. When I wake up, I'm taking DHEA, so very, very small amounts, 10 to 30 milligrams. I'm taking.
I will probably warn people in the crowd about that one too.
Yeah, sure.
That's banned by WADA
Yeah,
and
yeah.
USADA. So if you're competing in a sport that's being tested,
Yeah, you got to be careful.
just stay away from
Do
that
your,
one.
do your
It's
homework.
over the counter, but doesn't mean that you can use it in competition.
That's right.
That's
Know your
right.
drugs, folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's not taking anything illegal.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is just, this is context, is that I'm coming out of a very difficult period of about 6 months where I had severe Lyme disease symptoms. And
Oh,
so
man.
I had deterioration of the joints, I had extreme chronic fatigue, I started having dementia-like symptoms where I was losing my
wow.
short-term memory, I had trouble recalling
Scary
names
as
of close
shit.
friends. Terrifying.
Mhm.
My knees were so swollen that I had trouble getting up and walking in the morning. So my regimen is not necessarily your regimen, all right? But DHEA, I'm taking calcium D-glucarate, or glucarate. I read these things instead of pronounce them, so which is useful for many different things. I'll let you guys read up on it. But pre and probiotics. So probiotics get a lot of fanfare. You don't hear as much about prebiotics,
Right.
and I'll be talking a lot more about this at some point. But if you don't have, I think it's helpful to think of your gut, and there are many different microbiomes. But if we're talking about the gut biome, you can think of it as a rainforest. And if the topsoil has been depleted, it doesn't matter if you're taking these amazing plants, i.e. probiotics,
Yeah.
and throwing them down your throat because they won't take root.
No substrate there.
Right. It's important to create an environment in which beneficial bacteria can grow. And to accomplish that, you can consume things like resistant starches. Like baobab root is quite interesting. You can consume inulin, for instance, different types of fiber. And
Oligofructose.
Yeah, that's
oligofructose.
oligofructosaccharides.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that is going to get a lot of fanfare and get a lot of attention in the next few years.
We start marketing our product now.
Yeah, and
Tim's like, no, I'll have
He's
mine.
like, I'm
now."
right on
yeah,
top
it's
of
like
it.
no, I already have mine. Ready.
We're not going to catch up with him.
Part of my theory about Lyme disease and why it's so poorly understood is that there are many people who have been diagnosed or diagnosed themselves as having chronic Lyme disease.
Mhm.
If you talk to most infectious disease specialists or MDs in that area, they will dispute the existence of chronic Lyme disease. They will say, no, there's no proof that exists. And then that will be countered by thousands or tens of thousands of people who say, what about all these symptoms?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense that it
Right.
doesn't exist. And my pet theory currently is that chronic Lyme is actually chronic depletion of gut flora, among other things. So when people are diagnosed, and oftentimes months of doxycycline or other broadband antibiotics to address Lyme, they fix the Lyme, let's just assume,
Right.
for the time being, but they never fix their gut.
Right.
And so they get depressed. What happens, right? If the gut is assisting in production of neurotransmitters, among other things, a lot of people call it the second brain. You get depressed, you get fatigued, you have digestion problems, you can have joint problems,
Sleep problems, right?
Sleep problems. The symptoms overlap with Lyme disease, which makes it a fucking disaster from the standpoint of fixing. So,
Yeah.
in any case, my morning routine, just to talk about, I focus on effectiveness more than efficiency. And I think it's important. I think that our thinking is only as clear as the labels we use and the words we use. For me, I think about it a lot. Also, writing helps. But effectiveness is doing the right things. Efficiency is doing things well. So it's possible to be very efficient, but be efficient at doing the wrong things. So I try to, in the mornings, my routines are usually focused on a number of things, including clarifying and confirming what those few things are that matter. So I will wake up. I have tea every morning, but I'll usually wake up and I'll do 15 to 20 minutes of transcendental meditation. Then I will start my tea. I'll boil the water. or actually it's 185 degrees, so I get very specific.
You have to be specific,
Yeah,
folks.
I get it to 185
Don't boil
degrees.
the water and toss on your tea and coffee, you animals.
Savages.
Savages, what are you doing to that coffee?
So I have a Cuisinart kettle that allows you to pick the temperature.
Oh, nice.
And to 185 degrees, I usually have a combination that just like you guys saw earlier, I have this stuff. So it's Pu'er tea, which is an aged black tea, typically from China, combined with turmeric and ginger, and then I like to add in some type of green tea, oftentimes a sencha. And if I'm feeling sick, or if I feel like I'm coming down with something, I'll add garlic to that, so minced garlic usually. But otherwise, that is sort of my morning tea. And then once I have my tea, I will sit down and I will do one of two things. I'll either use something called the 5-minute journal, which was actually created by some readers who made it their muse, their business after reading the 4-Hour Workweek. But it's 5 minutes first thing in the morning, 5 minutes right before you go to bed.
Right.
And it's really, really helpful for, I think, priming your mind for the day, and does that through 3 things you're grateful for, forcing you to re-identify your priorities, and then having basically a performance review before you go to bed. And either that or morning pages. So I will freehand journal, and the intention of that is not to be a good writer. And I think it's particularly valuable for people who never write or don't write, actually, because it allows you to take the self-defeating talk or anxieties or worries that you have, your preoccupations, and trap them in the form of words on a page so that you can get on with your fucking day.
Yeah.
And not have them ricocheting around in your head like a stray bullet. So usually one of those two things. I like to, so let's just say hypothetically, I've been trying to wake up earlier. I've always been a night owl, but let's just say I'm waking up earlier.
Struggle with the same
So that
thing.
gets us to let's just say 8:30, 9 o'clock. At that point, I like to do some basic mobility work, focusing currently on sort of ratcheting up to an overhead squatting movement.
Yeah.
And because I've had a lot of challenges with my thoracic mobility, and I've had shoulder surgery, so just this entire area has been frozen for
It's pretty common for
a
wrestlers
decade.
too to have
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's like I have little Tyrannosaurus arms, and I also write. It's a
Right.
conflagration of
combination.
problems.
If you wrestle and write,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
screwed. Yeah.
And then from after that 20 to 30 minute exercise block, I will like to focus on some type of content, whether it be writing, audio, interviewing, etc. And then lunch, and then after lunch is where I do the grunt work. So if there's any grunt work I need to do, and by grunt work I mean stuff that doesn't require me to really be walking a mental tightrope and all cylinders on. So interviewing, I sometimes interviewing for research, I would put in that bucket, right? Not for broadcast, but for research. And on and on and on. So that's sort of the first 3 to 4 hour block of most of my days, at least in the last 6 months.
So you try to be by yourself to be the most effective? You find like being alone with no distractions is the way that you're most effective?
For me, yes. So and I'm actually part of the reason I'm down here down here in California. It's such a goddamn huge state. Since, I feel like sometimes Northern California and Southern California. It's a very contentious
I
relationship.
think they're trying to divide the state right
Yeah,
now.
no, it's very sort of like Texan in a way.
Yeah.
It's like if you had a wimpy Texas, it would be Northern California. Like the didgeridoo playing, pot smoking. San Francisco's are like, we're so different, and which is fine. But how the hell did I get over there? So being alone, I find one of my favorite ways to procrastinate is to talk and communicate with other people. So I need to remove the option to do that. And I do that by trying to isolate myself. I think that's another reason that I ended up being a night owl, is that I found I was most productive very late at night, where I couldn't procrastinate by IMing my friends. I wasn't getting phone calls. So from 10 p.m. to like 5 a.m., still, if I'm under the gun and I need to get a lot of hopefully high quality writing done, I'll still revert to that.
Well, there's some magic that happens like at 2 a.m. You're in the zone, you're writing, and the house is quiet, kids and wife and anybody else in the house are asleep. It's an addicting thing.
It's a magic place. And so when I look at the top in my mind, like high performing writers. And by high performing writers, I mean people who kick out high quality writing on a consistent basis. They, among my friends, without exception, that's not true. There are a few journalists who've just been like had a gun against their head for deadlines every day at X point in time. Those guys are machines. They just, and women, they're just absolute machines. I can't identify with them. They're kind of Terminators. But among people who have not had that journalistic trench warfare experience, they either go to bed very, very late, like I did for a long time, so they have that quiet time when other people are asleep. So they either work after everyone else is asleep, or they wake up before everyone is woken up. And they fall into those two groups. So it's either the night owl camp or the people who wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, write for 2-3 hours, and then contend with the family, friends, business, etc.
You just explained a lot of things that were seemed like people who are night owls. I'm like, oh, they're just probably trying to get away from busy people. Or the busy activities of the day.
Yeah. I feel like there's a fight between the night owls and the morning people all the time. Like they both think they're right and they don't like each other.
Oh, yeah.
I would say practically for people who want to be a writer, I write more now, but for a while you don't get paid to write. For a long time, you don't get paid to write. So you hustle during the day, and then because you want to create an opportunity for yourself, guess what? Writers write. If you want to be one, you got to put in a lot of fucking writing. So you will stay up, or you will get up. And if you not want to do that, then that's probably not going to happen for you. You can't wish it to happen. You got to sit down and do this for a long time.
You got to do the writing time. And I actually do my best drafting and editing by hand. So I do use a computer. Obviously, it'd be hard to get by without it. But I always do my first drafting and my note-taking in the field by hand. And then I'll identify the pieces that I want to put in order for a draft. Sometimes I'll then draft on the computer, but I will always print out and edit by hand. And in fact, you have 100 pages of a friend's, one of my very close friends' books. I'll give him a shout out, Neil Strauss, who's 7-time New York Times bestselling author. So his new book is going to be, amazing. I can't say anything about it right now.
Can I sneak in there while you're doing this and take a look at the cover?
But I printed it out, and I'll be editing, reading and editing today just to help, because he's been super helpful with a lot of my books as well. Yeah.
I met Neil in Sedona a few months ago, maybe. He was super generous, gave me a lot of awesome advice, and
Neil's
just was more than happy to share.
Neil's really tactical and a very, very good writer. Really brilliant A-list interviewer as well, just from so much time at the New York Times and Rolling Stone and so forth. But yeah, just to bring it back to that point of sort of being alone, it's more that I'd say the writers who really hit home runs consistently, I'm not putting myself in that category, but just observing it, it's like between 10 p.m. and sort of 7 a.m. Whether they're at the front end or the tail end, they find time when the rest of the world is asleep. And to underscore, I think, a principle behind that, I think self-discipline discipline and self-control are very overrated. So, or there's an expensive, they're expensive. They're cognitively expensive. So you can have decision fatigue, right? It's like, okay, you could leave, all right, left to my own devices, like, I like Triscuits. Sure. I like ginger cookies. Love them. I could leave them just like laying around my house and rely on self-control. But no, that's a fool's errand, because I'll either tax myself cognitively, right, or I'll break. And so I think the putting systems in place that prevent your lesser behaviors is more effective and more efficient in terms of energy preservation than just trying to get more discipline.
Right.
And so by forcing myself to write in such a way that I am isolated, that I have a protected 3 to 4 hour block of time. I don't have to develop the self-control necessarily to stay off of Twitter or Facebook or not respond to my friends' texts, et cetera, because I'm simply choosing a setting and a system that absolves me of that responsibility. So the AT&T had a slogan way back in the day, which was "the system is the solution," and I think that's actually a great slogan for life. It's like, if you're finding things taxing and too hard, think about systematizing and process, and not just like trying harder. Once you've identified those systems and you know that for input X you're going to get output Y, then it's like, great, I have no problem with hard work. Once you've built a machine that allows you to get the most leverage, that's great. But otherwise, it's just like you're Sisyphus. You're pushing a boulder up a hill that's just going to keep rolling down and knocking your ass down to the bottom.
You won't
if
win
you don't
that.
If you don't want to cheat on your wife, you shouldn't hang out at the Playboy Mansion 5 days a week.
Right.
There's going to be temptation there that eventually you're going to crack on.
That was only once. That was only once. In fairness.
Let's take a break real quick. All right, guys.
Up next, we have Dr. Fred Bishi. He was suggested to us by Joe DeSena to interview. I saw the guy, I was like, this old dude. But don't judge a book by its cover, because once I got talking to him, I was like, this guy is amazing.
It's hard not to be motivated by a guy who's in his 80s and to this day still lifts weights heavy and runs hill sprints and is still fired up to train. How could you not be motivated by that? Check it out.
We are in beautiful Vermont, hanging out on Joe DeSena's place. I don't even know what we're doing up here anymore.
We're just having a good time, man.
We're hanging out here with Dr. Fred Bishi.
That's it.
Yeah, I got the name right. I'm pretty excited about that. We were hanging around, and Joe said we need to hang out with you a little bit, and we started learning a little bit about your history. And we're like, this guy
Well, he
is
didn't say it like that.
amazing.
He said, you have to meet this man.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
What did he say? What did I say?
He said, you have to. He said, yeah, come on up, maybe you'll never. No, he said, do it. Just trust me. Do it.
Well, I think he was talking to Doug, so I don't know exactly what happened. I'm just making up stories at this point.
So we got to talk to him.
Yeah.
You've been in the game for a long time. You have quite a history. On your note, you said he has quite a history. Like, you have more history than anyone I know in the strength conditioning world.
Well, I've been at this. I started working out with the weights when I was about 14 years old, and I'll be 85 years old in 10 days. So
we were feeling like we had been in the game for a while.
I'm like, yeah, I've been training for like 17 years. You're like, it's been like 60-something years.
I've got like 22. How long have you been in the game, Doug?
16.
Yeah, so we feel.
well, I'm
17.
a little different. I'm a little different. What happened? I was really, I was really excited about working out with the weights, and I trained very, very hard. I was explaining to him. I devised a way of training I called the overload system. And for the days that I lifted weights, it made me very, very strong. So I used a special power rack that I built, and he actually trained in an old barn. We dug a hole in the floor, so I used to stand in the hole and do. You heard about?
Yes.
Do deadlifts out of the hole, and we used to do partial deadlifts with 600 or 700 pounds. And when I was 17 years old, I was 200 pounds already. So training very, very hard. Then we had a power rack. We'd hold things over our head, just take it that much out of the power rack, much more than you could jerk. Everything I did was to build tendons, not only muscle strength, but tendon strength. And I used to train to exhaustion. Then I would not train again for another 5 or 6 days, because that's how long it actually
Do you
took.
mind if we go back and get notepads and shit so we can write down? Because these are great. These are great old.
Well, this is what's amazing is what you're describing right now is people use these methods.
And they're called cutting edge.
But they'll say this is new. There's a new thing.
No.
It's like because they're using. We now have racks that are built to where you can do exactly what you're describing. What's interesting is like someone goes, I don't have the proper equipment. It's like, have you tried digging a hole yet?
Well, that's what Paul.
Well, you want to really laugh. Some of the weights we used to use, they used to come from the old railroad crossings. They were counterweights. Some of them were this thick, and they weighed like 250 pounds, so to bring up the railroad crossing. So we used to actually take them when we were kids. So we had the most primitive setup in that barn that you ever saw. But we used to train. There was a group of us. We used to train like crazy, and we had a weightlifting club called the Dongan Hills Barbell Club, and we always competed at a higher level. I mean, we were poor immigrant kids. We used to come into a meet, and we used to look like a bunch of ragamuffins, but we always... I'm telling you, we always placed, We always did.
Did you ever happen to train with Paul Anderson? Because he used that same hole-in-the-ground technique for squats and good morning.
Paul Anderson?
Yeah.
I knew Paul Anderson when he was the heavyweight champion of the world.
Good Lord.
He worked with...
Sir, that's an honor.
York Barbell Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul was really a great guy, and
so for those that don't know, Paul Anderson's generally regarded, I guess, as the strongest
he was
man in modern history.
He did a squat. He could squat with over 1,000 pounds. I don't know exactly how.
He did
much.
it like every day for a
I
long
know.
time,
Yeah,
just for show.
He
So
was
for the record,
he was enormous.
Is this the 50s, sir? When was Paul on his peak? I can't remember the exact day.
Let me think a minute. Yeah, I think it was more in the 60s. It was after the Korean War.
Paul, he was rumored to have squatted a close like 1,100. I mean, the conditions are it's hard to say, you know, depth and all this stuff, but he could put it on his back. He could do amazing feats of strength. The back lift was my favorite one he used to do. He'd lift up like a whole audience on his back.
He was, first of all, he couldn't, his legs were so big, he couldn't go down below parallel. It was impossible. So he could just barely squat down to parallel. He could do a push press with over 500 pounds, maybe like 500. I don't remember the exact numbers, but he used to just a slight dip, and he used to push it over his head.
Yeah,
so.
this is the days when Olympic weightlifters were some of the they were the best pressers in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know Jack LaLanne?
Oh yeah, I know Jack LaLanne.
Yeah, was he a buddy of yours? You hang out with him
Well,
at all, train with him?
when I was in California, I worked out in the San Jose Y. He was a class by himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could do 100. He only weighed 148 pounds. He could do seating dumbbell press with 120-pound dumbbells, I think it was. 110. No, he was
Just sitting
he
there
was
pressing dumbbells straight overhead,
well
military press style.
together, not alternate, together. He'd just sit there and do them. And he could also,
140
but
pounds.
he could work out for hours,
Mm-hmm.
hours. A lot of big guys couldn't keep up with him.
It must have been those shoulder pads in his suit that gave him the strength.
He was a strong guy.
Yeah.
Endurance-wise, he was unbelievable. And I'm sorry to say he should have never died. He died when he was 93, 94. He got pneumonia, and somebody that was into health told him not to take the antibiotics and the pneumonia. He should have took the antibiotics. A guy I know in California asked me if I would call him. I said, I don't want to just call him. I don't know if the guy wants to hear from me. I said, if I was you, I would tell him to take the antibiotics. Antibiotics are not poison. In a life-threatening situation, you got to take them, or of course you could end up the way he
Especially
ended
for
up.
93.
Yeah, I mean, antibiotics are something that's commonly prescribed,
Overprescribed.
but there's still a time and place.
If you have
Oh,
pneumonia,
The
absolutely.
medical
they're not-
world does a really good job of treating short-term acute conditions, like you break your arm or you get pneumonia, you need antibiotics. But
Right.
chronic conditions is where most people have an issue treating diabetes and heart disease and obesity. Medical world doesn't do a great job of treating those compared to kind of the fitness wellness world. It's a long-term problem that needs a long-term solution. But a short-term problem, like a car accident, needs a short-term solution. You got to go
Absolutely.
in there and fix
Absolutely.
the arm like right now.
Well, my personal belief, I work with a lot of doctors. I have doctors that are friends of mine. I believe they should be, where they should be really utilized is emergency medicine, surgery, and chronic disease, should be left. I mean, I work with a lot of people who have chronic disease. And it's not really hard to deal with chronic disease if you understand lifestyle change and how to manipulate a person's chemistry and take their body to clean it up so it's not a good host for bacteria proliferation. I agree with you completely.
You were talking earlier about detox. Could you describe to us what happens during a detox? Because
Well-
a lot of health professionals throw the word detox around, and sometimes I'm wondering, I don't even know what they mean.
Right,
So-
exactly. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I think detox is the most poorly understood aspect of a person becoming healthy, especially in the natural field. Now, when I talk about detox, I think depends upon what the situation is. If you have a serious chronic disease or an acute disease, and in order to have a chance of your body overcoming it, either with the help of a physician or without a physician, the best way to detox is like these. Let's start from a basic understanding of what a detox is. If you're smoking crack or snorting cocaine, what's the best way to detox?
Stop doing that.
Stop doing it.
I was like, I'm trying to draw on my experience of cocaine use.
Of course, stop doing it, and your body is detoxing 24 hours a day. Once you stop detoxing, your lymph system, your body chemistry is going to be overwhelmed, and you're going to get sick if your body stops. So when you fall behind from your lifestyle, whatever you're doing that's wrong, what you have to do is to, either clean up your diet, and then there's things you could do you can go into fasting. Like I had an extensive background in water fasting. So if you're not eating anything and you're just resting, and you're drinking water, your body within 3 days your body goes into a detox. In other words, it starts to feed off whatever in your bowels. It starts to feed off the weak and dying cells, the aging cells.
Yeah.
Then it'll go to like maybe cysts, tumors, and even rents, and it'll start to feed off that. So your body knows how to detoxify itself. You don't have to take some potent drink, and sometimes you can do things like that.
You just sold me. I've never heard anyone describe it that
Or,
way.
or you can go on a juice fast. If you go on a juice fast, is very common now. I'm a consultant for a bunch of juice bars in Manhattan, and everybody's doing guys like you could do a 30-day juice fast like it would be nothing.
I don't think so.
don't think so?
Michael
It'd
get
be
very
hard, but
grumpy,
we could do
sir.
it.
I would be grumpy as hell, I think.
yeah, but the reason for that is because you'd be detoxing after 3 or 4 days. For instance, I have a daughter. My daughter's you'd be surprised what you could really do.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to try it now. I'm like, man, when can I do this?
Well, why don't you try it?
He's gonna
first.
set a deadline for me.
Are you
No,
challenging
no.
him, doctor? Because
No,
I
listen.
want you to challenge him.
No, the first. I'm telling you right now, the first 24 hours you're going to be a grump,
Mhm.
okay, and you're going to be irritable and everything. Then once you get past the 3rd day, you're going to start and drink 7, 8 juices a day. Don't worry about the protein. Just drink the juices because your body's going to, through the process of autolysis, you're going to be the weight you lose is going to be recycled as fat and protein. You have to look up Dr. Ragnar-Berg. He's the most brilliant guy.
So am I going to be super lean at the end of this?
No, it's 7 days.
No, after 30 days.
Well, it's
I'm trying to time this for the beach.
Well,
As good as
how
possible.
much?
I'm kidding.
In 30 days, you probably would lose if you drank 9 juices a day. You're not gonna. If you're drinking juices, you're not gonna have to go to bed. You're gonna have tremendous amount of energy. You're gonna be shocked after about the 5th day. Your energy is gonna start going through the roof. So if
You want to try this, Michael?
In
You wanna
about-
do this shit?
I'm trying to think about what day I could do this.
in about 30 days, well, why don't you just try a 3-day juice fast the first time? You're gonna be grumpy the whole 3 days, though, based on what you told me.
My wife is not liking
Yeah.
hearing this.
No.
So what's
okay,
interesting
I
is the
don't-
detox word. When anybody says detox, we all go to like it's a taboo word. It's a gimmicky word. You think, oh,
No,
you're
it's
gonna,
not.
You're gonna
It's-
push me on some
it's-
product, but really, isn't it? If we think about what's quote unquote, I'm using my quotation fingers, what's most natural in the vast span of our physiology as a species, there's going to be times where we would catch something, we'd have bounty. There's times when we're going to catch shit, and we're going to have to work that whole time for a long stretch with very little, if a little bit of water, but maybe nothing else for maybe a month. Would you say our physiology is sort of programmed, coded to be triggered by these situations and go into a different gear? Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, that's what, to
Yeah,
me, that is very
yeah,
intuitive.
Listen, your body knows how to do this intuitively. You're 100% right. There's no mystery to this. You don't even have to have a clue to what you're doing. Your body knows intuitively in its chemistry how to keep you healthy and restore your health. We have to get out of its way. The whole problem is to stop doing what we're doing. We're intoxicating ourselves so much today from the standard American diet. That's why more and more people are getting cancer. Type 2 diabetes is out of control. Arthritis is out of control, and it has a lot to do with our lifestyle. I hear people, if you go on the internet, there's so much confusion about what kind of diet people should be following. You know, you hear people talk about the raw food diet now. There's a macrobiotic diet, the paleo diet, you name it. There's a coconut diet, whatever diet you can think about.
These wackos.
Yeah, but the common denominator in all these diets is to leave out the processed food.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people that they kind of malign the paleo diet. It's not that bad a diet at all because they're eating. First of all, there is no paleo diet. Paleolithic era was between 10 million years ago and maybe 1 million years ago. So if you lived up in Alaska, the paleo diet couldn't be the same as what you eat in Central America or Costa Rica. Up in Alaska, they're probably eating a lot of moose, a lot of bear. They're able to eat some root vegetables. But were they healthy? Yeah, they were healthy because they weren't eating any processed food. They didn't have cell phones. They weren't drinking all that booze and all the stuff and smoking cigars, Cuban cigars like
Or
this.
just go a little bit more to the extreme of that environment, and the whole diet of that culture would be fat, seal fat,
Well-
a little bit of meat, but they would also be healthy. But again, it's the absence of the other
Well,
things.
healthy fats are not. Listen, a lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying this. Healthy fats are not the worst thing in the world.
Well, we all,
Well,
or
we're
at least on
agreeing
this
with you.
page,
We're
we
saying that's a good thing.
Huh?
that's one thing that people are accepting now is true, is that at least we're getting people to eat butter again, doctor. Good,
Yeah,
good,
all
high
right.
quality butter.
Well, try to give them the raw butter with what's called
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely,
Factor
yeah.
X. It's
Yeah.
but the Price Pottinger Foundation is very heavy into people eating, plenty of animal protein that's pristine, though, because of what Dr. Pottinger said. But you see, I can take people way beyond that. But I try to meet people where they're at. I know where you guys are coming from. Then if you ask me to help you, I could tell you, I know you're not going to, get into anything radical. I know you don't want to get as thin as I am, but you could be supremely healthy and maintain the same type of bills that you have now by eating clean food. If you're eating beef, you got to eat grass-fed beef. Because it's got all the hormones, the pesticides, the chemicals, plus the urea. Whenever you're eating, you know what urea is. You know what what's going on. So you got to try to eat as clean as you possibly can, no matter what you're eating.
You eat a raw diet. What exactly does that mean? I mean, I know some people are raw vegan. I know some people are raw as in like I've heard of people going just eating raw beef. And
yeah, there's some people. There's a guy in California advocates people eat raw meat. That's not for me. It's not necessary. You know what I'm saying? My diet consists of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, juices, smoothies, and some of it is actually delicious. People don't realize I'm a consultant for a juice bar in Manhattan called Juice Press. If you ever went in there and ate the food, you could sit down and eat a cheesecake, and it's really it's actually
Twist my arm, doctor.
So it's really good.
It's called Juice Press.
Juice Press, yeah.
Juice
There's
Press.
like 20-something stores in Manhattan.
you don't eat any meat?
No, I don't eat meat.
How long have you not had meat for?
About 50 years. I haven't eaten any cooked food at all. Zero in 50 years. My life.
Holy shit.
Or do you have like a cheat every once in a while? Like, all right, I'm gonna give in.
Never. I can't. See, that's what people don't realize. You can't, because if I ate something that I normally not eating, I would feel like if I ate a piece of meat, about an hour or two, you'd probably have to call an ambulance, because my body has stopped.
You just don't produce the enzymes necessary to digest that.
I have no desire to either. Although when I was young, I used to love to eat a steak or something like that.
So logistically, do you bring most of your food with you when you travel, or when you go to a restaurant, do you just order off the menu and just tell them what to bring you?
Well,
how does that work? Or you just go to the grocery store and just buy some stuff and call it good because you don't have to cook it?
No. What I do when we travel, Rory and I, Dr. Rory Dean, that works for me, we usually bring our own food. We have a cooler. We bring our own food. And unless I'm coming to a place, a lot of places I go to, speaking up, that's what they're feeding people. So I really don't have, trouble eating, because if it's not available, I don't eat. I'll go someplace and buy it if I have to. I'll go buy something that's not organic. I'll go to a supermarket. But we always manage. It's not a big problem. And believe it or not, as bizarre as it sounds, some of the way the food is prepared and some of the type of dishes that we eat, it really is delicious. It's like eating dessert all the time. But you have to be used to it. You have to have that mindset to do it. And plus, with me now, it's a question of survival. Here I am at 85. If I start eating some of this other stuff, I won't be around very long, to be perfectly honest with you. So I feel wonderful at this point in my life. I feel as good as I did when I was in my 50s. And I survived a very serious near-death situation about a year and a half ago, and not too many people thought I was going to survive or bounce back. I'm ready to go. I
Hell yeah.
I bounced back.
Care to share what that event was?
What?
Do you care to share what that event was?
I have no problem. What happened is I had never been sick. I don't remember being sick, and I had some dental work done. I didn't realize I have a very small throat, So what happened, because I was so busy, I wasn't masticating my food as well as I should, and some food got into my airway, and it went down into my lung. The airway is in the front, your esophagus is right behind it, right? And there's a sphincter here called the glottis, and when you chew your food, your tongue goes into your roof of your mouth. It's an automatic reflex, and it just pushes it over the glottis, and the epiglottis slides over and closes it.
Right.
It wasn't working for me. It went in there. Right.
Oh,
and I was gulping the food down. I wasn't chewing it down. It went into my lungs, and I started to cough, and the cough got more and more violent as time went on. Finally, I said, something radically wrong. I knew. So I went to a local doctor who was, he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, I come to realize.
It's a bad sign when your life's on the line.
So he said I had athletically induced asthma. I said, listen, doctor, I don't have asthma. I think I have pneumonia here, So he says, no, you don't have it. I don't know how they made that mistake. They gave me an x-ray, and I went home. I got sicker. Then a friend of mine wanted me to go see a doctor in the city. I went seeing a doctor, and As soon as he looked at me, he said, I want you to go see a pulmonologist at Mount Sinai Hospital. It was a woman. I went to see her. She gave me an x-ray, and she says, you have to go into a hospital immediately. I said, can't you give me, because I never was in a hospital, can't you give me antibiotics? I'll go home. She said, no, you can't do that. So I went into the hospital, and what happened is that they started to treat me. They gave me antibiotics, which I never had, which ended up making me real sick. My legs swelled up. I had all kinds of problems. And they sent me home. And when I went home, I got progressively worse because I was trying to eat some food. And every time I put food in my mouth, I would go like this to cough, and the food was going into my airway.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
So then I got to the point where I knew I was dying. So I told my wife, I said, listen, I got to go back into the hospital. Well, my whole family was shocked because they know I wouldn't do that unless something was radically wrong. So I went back into the hospital. They put me in the critical care unit. The first day I was in there, the guy next to me died. They were coming in, they were looking at me, and I know the way they were looking at me, it wasn't really that good.
Like the crows are circling.
Huh?
The crows are trying to circle you.
Yeah, right. So what happened, I ran into one doctor, and he come in, he said, can I talk to you? I want to come in. I have to come in the early in the morning, about 4 o'clock. I said, okay, I'll be wake. He come in, and he says, I have a feeling you have aspirational pneumonia. Bingo. As soon as he said that, I knew he was right. I knew exactly that the guy was right. So what they did is, in order to take that test, they said they made me wait 7 days. I didn't eat. I had no food, and they wouldn't let me drink water, chew ice, which was kind of ridiculous. And I couldn't even get into any intravenous fluids because my legs had swollen up. So I did that. I think that's called a dry fast. There's a lot of Russian people. I've done some dry fasting. I thought they knew what they were doing. They would just they didn't have a time slot to put me in, and they didn't want me to eat in between. Why, I don't really know. So what happened is that that's what I had. I had aspirational pneumonia. They put me on massive amounts of intravenous antibiotics, which really took its toll on me. And I went home, and I recovered from the pneumonia quickly. But what was done, I had to I did a bronchostomy, and they gave me general anesthesia, which did affect my short-term memory and had some real issues. So
You survived, man.
I survived, yeah. I was really lucky. But that's the only time I've ever really been sick, and I bounced back. I feel good. I'm back into working out again and everything,
It sounds like
how do you work out these days? You're back into working out?
Yes, I'm back into working out. What I do is I do Qigong. Like Rory does it too. He's much better at it than I do. I am. So
that was the martial art you talked about earlier.
Martial arts, right. So I get up in the morning. I do sit-ups. I do all kinds, and I have some light dumbbells that I work out with. I do my Qigong, and then I live in an area in Staten Island. There's a lot of pits and a lot of hills up there. So what I either, some days I run. I do repeats, like up the hills, run back and forth.
You run hill sprints in the morning?
Pardon me?
You run hill sprints?
Not every day. Some days I walk. It depends upon how I feel. I'm getting stronger now, so I keep telling Rory I plan on getting back to some heavy running. But
This is amazing attitude, man.
That's badass, by the way.
now.
I want to run hill sprints at 85. That's awesome.
I could still sprint though. I could still run. You know what? You know what affected me the most being in the hospital though? My equilibrium is off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's coming back, but I don't know what.
So balance is a little tough.
Yeah. It's it's harder for me to come down the staircase than to go up it. Because when I go down, but it's getting better. So if that gets better, I'm going to get into a lot more stuff. Not
to be a lesson to everybody. He just said, "I'm 85. I'm looking forward to getting stronger."
This is incredible. Yeah, anyone who wants to knock anything about like raw diet or anything, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time. You look great.
You can't knock it. People that knock it haven't experienced it. If they listen, I'm more than willing to say it's not for everybody. In fact, it might be for just people that are really, striving for the highest ideals in everything. And that's my philosophy is not to settle for mediocrity in anything I do. So that was one of the reasons.
This guy's so amazing.
That's one of the reasons I got into eating a raw food diet. And in the beginning, as I told you before, I thought I shot myself in the foot. But now, am I glad I did it? Yes, I believe that somebody that knows how to do an all raw diet, that gets into it, I believe you have a very good chance of living 100 or beyond. So that's what I always kid. I always tell people I'm kind of living in the death zone now because this is where a lot of people die, So I want to see a lot of people are waiting, and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen to me. But what I'm really doing is I tell my grandson, what I'm doing is I'm planning for the next 30 years. I want to watch him grow up more. So I'm kidding, of course, but whatever happens.
Why not?
Yeah.
I don't put anything past you, sir.
Yeah.
Dr. B, she's awesome. But next up on the show, we have the mayor and the ringleader of the Maniacs from Pittsfield, Vermont, Joe DeSena, who may be the hardest working guy we've ever met.
I love hanging out with him. No more than 2 days at a time, of course. But yeah.
It's exhausting because every morning you wake up doing 200 burpees with the guy at 6 a.m. That's the kind of guy he is. Get ready to get motivated.
Yeah.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Mike Blutzer here with Doug Larson and Chris Moore with CTP behind the camera, of course. We have traveled to the strange land of Vermont to talk about Spartan racing.
This is where people come to get their asses kicked.
Like
Yeah.
we
Long
did.
story short.
Like we did this
I
morning.
remember a couple years ago I discovered Spartan race because there was like all these videos online of people just going for days and days and days up in Vermont and up in the mountains, and it was
Through water, and fire,
excruciating.
and ice, and all sorts of
was there fire?
terrible conditions.
There's fire.
Is there
That's fire.
fire?
Yeah, that's fire.
You got to jump over it.
So can you explain to everybody what the Spartan race is? The first thing that ever popped up on my radar was the Spartan death race because that's like, the most epic. Sometimes I see like 5 or 10K and I'm like, doesn't really register. But then
It registers with me.
then I see something
So
that's
long
like
way.
2 or 3 days long and I go, whoa, that's serious, man. And I have got some friends that have done it since then. But can you tell us a little bit about the Spartan race and then how you got into racing? And I'd like to hear about, kind of touched on it yesterday when we came in. You were in Manhattan at one time.
So I was running a Wall Street firm, and knock on wood, doing okay, but it wasn't fulfilling. There was everything was about the money each week and how much you were making and the dinners and the drinks and really looking for something else. Which is why when I was doing the races, I was looking for could I live here, and the opportunity came up to pack it in, leave the city life, leave a lot of money on the table, and come up here and just live a different life. And so Courtney, my wife, was interested. We did it. We pulled the trigger. Now the weddings are rolling. The general store's open. The farm's moving with steam. But we need more people here. You can't survive on chickens. So
We all wish it could. But
so I said, why don't we put on a death race? I was with my buddy Andy, who you guys haven't met yet. And he had this experience through life. He was a swim coach. And he would always look for great athletes, just like any other coach in any other sport. But swimming's pretty serious, right? These guys are putting in 5-6 hour days in the pool.
yeah, huge training volume.
Huge training volume. And he'd be disappointed because 90% of them wouldn't commit at the level he wanted them to commit at. I had experienced the same exact thing through my life, but in business. I'd been running businesses since I'm 13 years old. Massive training volume with me because I like to work 20 hours a day, and very few people could keep that pace. The only people I found that would stick with me were Eastern Europeans. They were animals. They worked.
It's a tough sort of person. Right?
They are different.
I couldn't hang with them, and I just fell in love with their whole philosophy, and they had a different frame of reference on life. Like they were fighting. You ever see Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe?
Oh, it's an amazing movie, man.
No.
Stunning movie.
So he's a washed-up boxer. He's going for a heavyweight title fight. He breaks his hand like during regular work or whatever, or maybe got in a fight. And he has no business going back in the ring. He gets the title fight. And the reporter comes up to him and says, why are you fighting? Like, you're washed up, you're out of shape, you got a broken hand. He says, I'm fighting for milk. Now, you can't compete with a guy fighting for milk. Right? He's got no money, he's got nothing. You can't compete with that. And the Eastern Europeans were fighting for milk. And so that just intrigued me. So Andy had this perspective on swimmers. I had this perspective on trying to find these great employees and partners. And we said, we were out on a 12-hour snowshoe hike through these mountains one night. Why don't we create a race that just purposely breaks people, not unlike the military. The military does. Like, we're not going to pat you on the back. We're not going to have water stations. Nobody's cheering for you. This is just going to break you. And the 1 person or 10 people that are left when it's over, those are people we want to hang out with. Those are the people you'd want in the swimming pool or running a business with you. So that was early 2000s, 2004, 2005. And the race takes a turn for the better. All of a sudden, Olympic athletes are showing up, all kinds of people, 300-400 participants. Well, New York Times picks it up, and they come out here and they film, and all of a sudden, reality TV show folks are calling my house. My wife's like, we're not doing a reality show. I said, well, let's just...
Hold on, honey. Hold on. Let's listen to what the man has to say.
Let's just listen, right? And so,
let's just listen.
So Marion remembers, Marion's walking around here with a camera, and private jets start flying into Rutland, Vermont. And very rarely do private jets fly into Rutland, Vermont, and they're the reality TV show folks. So the guys that owned Ultimate Fighter, the UFC, owned Orange County Chopper, Ghost Hunters, 13 hit TV shows, shows up, and he's like, I want to do this with you. I love what you're doing with Death Race. We're doing this, and we sell the show in 5 minutes Discovery, 13 episodes. It's going to be a giant deal. This is like 2009-ish, 2008, 2009. So we're excited. And so I was thinking, we're going to have this TV show. We got this great race. We got a big opportunity here and a big platform when this is on TV to change lives, to really go out to the masses and get people to experience the stuff we've been experiencing. It can't be over 2 days, 3 days, because the public's not going to participate. It's got to be something that's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and we get people off the couch. And so Spartan Race was born. So we were on dual tracks. TV shows coming for Death Race. Spartan Race is born. And the funny thing about Spartan Race was I called up all those adventure racing buddies that had helped me with the barns here and stuff, and begged Andy, begged everybody. And as exciting as the idea sounded, I begged my brother-in-law, my family. Everybody said it's ridiculous. No one is going to go jump over fire and crawl under barbed. You can't make that business work. So nobody wanted to invest. So whatever, I said I'm going to invest just a tiny amount of money, and I'm going to get some friends to run this thing. And we did it, and it exploded. It became, as you know, a big business. We'll have maybe a million participants this year.
That's amazing.
1 million participants.
You clearly put your finger right on something that people were begging for. People who are chained up in whatever life they're living. We're not happy with the traditional fitness tract of typical gym stuff. This just ignited something in a whole lot of people.
Yeah, I think people needed it, right? There's people working in cubicles. They're sleeping on their couches. They're eating crappy food, and we gave them a vehicle to change that. To be a Navy SEAL for a day, to be an Olympian for a day, be in the Tour de France for a day, right? Just feel badass.
To face themselves, really.
Yeah, find out what they're made of.
We came down here because, or up here, yeah.
It's up.
Not everyone here knew where Vermont was.
CTP didn't even know what city it was.
Because
what city is Vermont?
The response was, I had to Google where Vermont was, and then I realized it was a state, not a city. But, Zach Evanesh, he said, hey, you guys got to come up here.
You didn't do the voice, man. Bro, you guys got to come up to Vermont.
Well, I was about to say what he said, and then...
do his accent, though.
But Zach said, bro.
There you go.
Bro, you got to come up and hang out with Joe DeCina. And I was like, who's Joe DeCina? And he's like, the Spartan Race guy. I go, oh, okay, I know Joe DeCina.
Joe.
Then.
Okay, yeah.
As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, okay. So, I've been following that for a long time. But when I was like, I don't know what I had no idea. All I know is that you guys did this crazy race, and then you guys had the smaller races all over the place. That's all I knew. So we came up here and he's got a book coming out. Was it May 12th?
May 12th, 13th. Yeah.
May 12th, 13th. He's got a book coming out. I was like, man, those guys, I know they're doing great things. I've always followed, obviously. I keep hearing stories. I've got friends that have done the race. I was like, why not? Let's go up there and check it out, interview Joe. But I want to hear about this book and why you wrote it.
Yeah, so the book I've been writing for 30 years in my head, and really it was a way for me to solve this problem we talked about earlier, which was why did the Eastern Europeans work so well for me when I was building businesses? Why were they the ones that really crushed it and wanted to work the long hours? And so I've been studying that for 30 years. What makes somebody that's just fighting for milk successful? And so the book recounts a bunch of those stories, and it talks about helping you change your frame of reference. Like this morning, we killed ourselves in the barn, and
Well, we killed ourselves. You looked fine. You recovered like 5 minutes after.
No, so by putting yourself through that pain in the morning, and each of us does it in a different way. What it does for me is it helps me more easily deal with the headaches of the day that are going to come, right? Because we're all going to have headaches. You're going to get a bad email that says this, or somebody you're working with quits, or a customer no longer needs your service, and it's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's tough to get through that stuff. But if you reset your frame of reference in the morning, at least for me, that's my way of doing it. Just makes the rest of the day easier. It's like, well, could be worse. Could be doing 300 burpees, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the important takeaways from the book. Another important takeaway is just learning how to get out of your comfort zone and commit to something. I like to commit publicly because it really puts you on the hook. And so I don't know if you guys do that, but like even for your weightlifting, everybody has a tough time staying motivated. But if you're honest with yourself and you let your buddies know that, hey, I'm going to do this, whatever this may be, I'm gonna marry that girl, or I'm gonna bench press.
Sounds like a terrible commitment to make.
So
I'm just kidding. I love my wife.
No, that's not funny at all, bro. No one laughed at that shit.
But making that public statement and that commitment helps you stay motivated. And then this other thing of just being gritty and being able to push through when things get ugly. I like to say, you go to do a 100-mile run, you're at peak excitement at the starting line. This is going to be great. It's all downhill from there. The second the gun goes off, and it's not just 100-mile run, it's wrestling or whatever sports we come from. It's just all downhill. What the hell am I doing here? This is terrible. I'm exhausted. Then the naysayers pile on. Like, I told you couldn't do this. This is silly. And at that deepest, darkest moment, it's decision time. You're going to quit or you're going to keep going. And most people quit. And like Thomas Edison, right? I don't know what the number was, but let's say it was 1,000 light bulbs, literally 1,000 light bulbs he had to tweak and work on before he got one to actually work. He could have quit at 2 and 5 and 10, but he didn't. And I think people are so close to success when they quit, they don't even realize how close they were. I saw this cartoon once where there's this guy mining away with a pickaxe, and you can see that the light, I mean, he's inches away. He'd been mining for whatever, 2 weeks. He's exhausted. He's just about to punch through, and he quits. And most of us do that. And so the book is, how do you stay on until you get success? No matter how you define success, doesn't have to be money. It could be anything, and
it could be not dying in a death race.
Could be not dying in a death race, right?
I forget who said this. It said that most people's biggest successes in life come right after their biggest failure.
Yeah.
Because until you have your biggest failure, you don't learn what you need to know to have your biggest success. So a lot of people quit too early. They got to go through that failure. Once you have the failure, you shouldn't quit then, because that's when you actually learned about yourself or about whatever your industry is or about whatever you need for, getting better at your workouts or whatever. Until you have that failure and you push through it, you're not going to be successful.
No, I was just not being specific about which unit I was with. But I was just down with the military, and I was with their commander, and this is a very elite unit, and he said they push for failure. They want failure because it makes you better. And I believe adversity is the road to success. So I don't think you could have true success without having tons of adversity beforehand. So I think failure is great because it teaches you a lot. You get back up, right?
So what's your favorite part of your book? What's the part that you're like, man, that's the part you got to read?
So
because Mike's not going to read the whole thing. What part should Mike read?
Maybe I should just have my wife read it to me. I think that'd
There
be
you go.
more successful.
Bedtime
that way.
stories.
You know, the last chapter came in quick. Wasn't planned. Spartan Race has a lot of advantages, and somebody asked recently, hey, do you love what you're doing? It's a lot of work, a lot of emails, but I get to meet guys like you. Got to do that thing with the military the other day.
Mhm.
And one of the things I got to go hang out with Richard Branson for a weekend.
Oh, cool.
And I was down on his island, and chapter 10 talks about that. And there's a guy that leads from the front, and older, obviously. Terrible storm on a Sunday. I'm sitting in his house, and he says, I want to go out sailing. Who wants to go? So obviously I raise my hand. I'm in.
He's like death race guy. Come on.
All his sailing people and all the guests that were there were like, sir, you cannot go out. It was terrible weather.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody was telling him not to do it. And so we jumped in the boat, and it was rough. And it was, and here I am. It's not like I'm a great swimmer or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And we hanging out with him and watching him go through that, and you could see why he's successful. So if you can't read anything else, read chapter 10.
Got it.
And,
So he was there just smiling and sort of, this is fantastic, and weathering the storm right there with you.
Yeah, he was just living.
Just
And-
you two guys on that boat. Huh?
Yeah, it was great.
It's probably a pretty nice boat, though. It's probably not.
But no, it was a catamaran. It was a sailboat. I mean, he's as wealthy as he is, and as well as he's done, and all the things he has. Yeah, he's not one of those kind of guys.
Just simple boat, simple sailboat.
Simple.
Yeah. Cool.
That's Necker Island. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Or where's that again? I hear people talk about it, but I don't know where it is.
So British Virgin Islands, across from. I'm trying to think how far it is from Peter Island. I don't know how far it is from Peter Island, but Peter Island's nearby.
Who knows what's
Roughly what
secret.
continent is that next to? I really don't know.
Oh no! So you're going right off Florida. You're heading right down there in British Virgin Islands.
Oh, okay.
So near St. Thomas, near the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Nice.
It's not in Africa.
It's no. Did you miss the friendly confines of your treacherous mountain trails and barns and workhorse mentality here? Because down there, I guess you'd have trouble running your recruitment strategy there with gorgeous beaches and.
I'll tell you what. I'm not a and you may disagree hanging out here, but I'm not like one of these lavish guys. Like I've always not enjoyed sitting around and watching TV. That's not been my thing. But
I haven't seen a TV in your house, by the way. I think.
But no, there's TV over there. But I like to, once I torture myself, like we're gonna go on this hike when this is over.
Oh, yeah, you were going to tell a story, by the way, about the
thanks for reminding
Indian
us about
statue.
that.
Like I do when we go see Chinoa at the base of the stairs, and we get that workout done. Then I don't mind. Then it would be cool to hang out in Richard Branson's lavish living room.
Yeah. By the way, before we do this treacherous hike, which I'm kind of nervous about, by the way, because it's not like I'm not already pre-fatigued from doing a mile run warm up. Which last time I ran a mile was in college. I'm ashamed to say it, but should I bring a peace offering to this Indian goddess? Say, please bless me on this journey. I make a small offering of respect to the mountain.
So the story, yeah, I mean you should, because the story with her is there's a stone staircase to the top, and the truth is that stone staircase was built by death racers. But we like to say that Chinoa used to live. We're going to go to her cabin. She used to live up top, and that she put the staircase in, and that she used to pull her canoe by herself to the top of the mountain every day. And some people still see her ghost. So I would, if I were you, I would bring a peace offering.
This is the kind of story that, like, 20 years from now or 50 years from now, people go like, "There's this ghost Chinoa up there." This should be cemented into people's consciousness. This will be real.
That's right.
Well, let's wrap this up. Where can people find your book?
SpartanUpTheBook.com.
SpartanUpTheBook.com.
Do you want to tell everybody about the real title of that book?
Can I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. So basically, we got in a big fight with the publisher. We wanted to call it Spartan the Fuck Up, but the publisher, which we think is a great name. I mean,
I agree.
It's succinct. It says what it needs to say.
It's catchy.
Yeah,
Catchy.
it's certainly noticeable.
And it would be very noticeable in airports and things. But the publisher is old school and wanted to go with Spartan Up. So
You went with a publishing company that was too big.
It's too big.
Yeah, you should have gone with a smaller one.
We didn't. I had no experience doing books.
Yeah, me neither. That's just an assumption. I mean,
I want to
I'm just making shit up.
I'll be in the airport, Joe, and I want to see your book right next to like Bob Harper's Paleo Treats, then diet cookbook, like diet tricks, and then Spartan the Fuck Up.
What we were gonna do, we should do with you guys. We were thinking, what if we printed a bunch of them, Spartan the Fuck Up, and then went into airports, and when the lady wasn't looking, actually put
Oh,
those
yeah,
on the
switched
shelf
them
and
out.
switched them out.
We fly all the time. We could do it.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And
I'm in.
and then you can see the lady trying to scan it, and it's not scanning, and she's confused.
We've talked for over an hour right
And she's
now.
like, what
so-
the fuck?
And we've talked over like the last, since last night. And I can't remember if this was said here on the podcast or whatever, but we can repeat it. I don't have a problem with that. Is, you just made the reference, next to someone who has like these paleo treats, like, I'm making paleo cookies, and which I love. I love to eat those things. Don't get me wrong, but you're not going to lose any fucking weight eating paleo cookies. I promise.
They're still cookies,
So like, no. I love eating them. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to lose weight, that's definitely not the way to do it.
Joe is not eating any fucking paleo cookies before he goes out for his 5 a.m. jog.
No, but
Let's
one of
put
the
that-
things we were talking about is just, you really encourage people to get in shape by just working hard. Like, no shortcuts, no magic pills,
no math or science required.
People always publish these little diet books and stuff like that. And you're like, no, just work hard and don't eat sugar.
Well, we would sell a lot of books. Like if it was called Spartan the Fuck Up, and it was just like 3 steps to get in better shape, lose weight, be successful. We'd sell a lot of, but that's not the book. The book basically says you got to work hard, asshole. And people don't necessarily want to hear that, but that's the book.
That could be the subtitle. Spartan the fuck up. You got to work hard, asshole.
What's the matter? You get out of here.
Damn it!
Subtitle.
I should have hired you guys. Should be publishers.
You were going to print
Start
some
a
of those?
publishing company.
Up next, we have Mark Devine, former Navy SEAL commander and founder of SEAL Fit. He's actually one of my teachers and role models.
Real life samurai for sure.
Now, Mark, my first impression of SEAL Fit was probably in 2008, 2009.
Right.
Logging on the website, and we used to do SEAL Fit Sundays at my box, me and a few guys. They were just like, we want to do something extra hard once a week, and we would do that. It was a lot of fun. I always thought about SEAL Fit as just like high volume training someone might want to do if they're preparing for the military.
Right.
But after getting to know you and paying attention a little bit better, I've learned that that's somewhat of the goal, but really the real goal is training the mind, and that's what you specialize in.
Right. Yeah, I started with the premise that we've got to train the mind, and we use, obviously, physical training methods to get to the mind. It's the most effective way that we found, really, to get into someone's mind and to kind of forge that mental toughness. So, are we athletic trainers? Absolutely. But am I trying to train someone for the CrossFit Games? No. I mean, you guys do that better than me. But training someone for special ops really is a mental game. And the body obviously has to be there, and it needs to be able to handle the volume, and it needs to be able to work, in extreme circumstances. It needs to be able to work when it's cold, wet, and tired. Those types of things.
Yeah, I want to give everyone a rundown of what we did this morning.
Sure.
So yeah, at 7 o'clock we came here. We did a pre-SOP, so pre-standard operating procedure. One of the things that I really enjoyed that I thought was unique about how you presented the entire workout was when you briefed us was that you said, hey, as I describe what we're going to do today, I want you to visualize completing this and think about, don't just sit there and listen, because I think a lot of people do that. The coach is going over the workout, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Right.
They don't visualize doing it, and then, kind of like thinking about what problems might exist.
Right.
It's like, I'm not sure which piece of equipment I'm going to use.
Right.
I don't know exactly how to do that movement, or how long are we supposed to rest between these things.
Right.
There's all this stuff. And if you're walking through, as you're describing it, I'm standing there thinking, okay, I'm going to do that. And then I kind of broke it down, and then I had some questions I might not have had otherwise,
Right.
had I just been like, eh. So I thought that was just from the very get-go, you did it differently than most coaches,
Right.
where you said, hey, visualize it. And I
know-
actually think that folds into being successful throughout the entire workout, too.
I'd love to talk about that for a second, may I?
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
so
Perfect.
we approach the workout, we try to win it in our mind before we start it. So that's an incredibly valuable component of the training. It may not take 3 hours. The real work is taking the other 2 hours and 55 minutes. But you can win it or lose it in that 5-minute pre-SOP.
Oh yeah.
Right. And like you said, if you're not paying attention, if you brought some baggage along to the game and you're obsessing about it, and you miss a critical component of the brief, then you may get injured. You may fuck up a teammate. And furthermore, you're just not going to be mentally prepared. And so you win each segment in your mind. You're clear about what you got to do. You see yourself performing, And all these questions come up. How am I going to do? Do I need to scale? What's my equipment going to look like? And you answer those questions before you ever start training. Plus, when you get into the workout, you've had a very subtle performance indicator that you've been there before, which helps helps your mental toughness, your confidence.
Do you carry that over to the rest of your day? Like when you wake up in the morning, you see your schedule, you kind of like visualize the whole day. That
That's
way,
right.
just like the workout, you can see what's in front of you, you visualize it, and that way you're more focused when you get to, even if it's something as simple as going to a meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I have and one thing I teach to my Unbeatable Mind students is what's called the morning ritual. And part of that is to visualize your day and to make sure that what you've agreed to aligns with what you should be doing. And so it's kind of a last chance to make some course corrections. You see yourself going through the day, you see yourself rocking it, and then once again, as you step foot into that day, you've already been there, you've already won in your mind, and it has a profound impact. Over
It's a
time.
fantastic idea. I think a lot of times I hear this from a lot of people, and I've been there myself. Is get done with a whole day of work, and you're like busy the whole time, but you don't feel like you did anything.
Exactly. What exactly did I accomplish?
Like, what did I accomplish? And if you visualize that at the front end of the day, you'll go, okay, that lined up with what I visualized this morning. So then you'll have that feeling of accomplishment.
Right, and it helps you see like what is the what's the major accomplishment that I want to get done today. Like today, it's hanging out with you guys and getting to know you and training together and doing this. I mean, done. Check, and it's a successful day. We've won. Now, if I want to accomplish some other task project, that's all gravy, right?
It's all
so you
bonus.
That's bonus miles, right?
Yeah.
So get very clear on what it is that's going to move the dial toward your goals, and those goals, of course, are tight and they're aligned with where you really need to go in
Did you
life.
get any bonus stuff done today while we were napping?
Yeah, I got a nap. That was bonus for sure. You knew that was happening, right? Boom.
No doubt. That was the first thing and it's interesting is I met Mark down in Miami a few months ago, and I recruited Mark first to do like yoga and swim some laps for a workout in the morning, and then I then told him hours later that I'd recruited people, and he was leading yoga and he was leading the workout, and he's like, oh, right on. And but when we did that, we did like a little bit of a meditation visualization session.
Right.
It was like really powerful for me, and I like doing a little bit of meditation, but I don't do as much visualization like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we did this visualization exercise, like a warrior thing.
Right.
And I started using that. I don't do it every day, but I use it sometimes. Like if I'm going to a workout that's really challenging, I go through like that. The breathing that we went through that day, and just the visualization. And I visualize like completing each rep and hitting it hard, and not having like that doubt in my mind, like whether I can do it or not, or the question of quitting or anything. And I've noticed that since I've done that, I've just been like, when I do that visualization prior to workout, like I'm much more confident throughout the workout, and I'm just like, I just feel better overall.
Right.
I feel like I'm winning it as I go.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people talk about visualization. We've been training it now for 7 years or so, but they don't really do it. It's just like training, physical training. If you don't do it, your body starts to fall apart. You start to atrophy.
Yeah.
You can't hide with the physical training, but I can't see you guys visualizing, so I don't know if you're doing it. And I don't know if you're doing it well, and so it's very difficult to teach it and to train it. It requires a feedback mechanism.
Yeah,
we do that in our immersive academies because I have a lot of time to spend with the guys. But if you train it and you do it every day, it does have a profound impact. In fact, I'll maintain that it's as powerful, and it's an incredibly powerful complement, or let's say an equal part to the physical training. And it's really the next frontier for growth. Right?
Yeah.
I think I was fortunate to have a swim coach at Colgate University who believed in visualization. This is I'd be dating myself if I told you the actual years, but a long time ago. And I tell the story a lot because it was so powerful for me. But he had me visualize my my event, which was the 200-meter breaststroke, which is kind of a painful event, and he'd have me do it at night with a stopwatch. And it took me several months before I could get through the entire workout. I mean, that's how challenging visualization can be. To actually hold your attention, hold that visual image from the gun going off, jumping off the block, doing your underwater pull out and swimming, touching the wall, turning underwater, swimming, and doing 8 lengths and then touching the wall. So when I finally was able to do it, after I stayed with it because the coach begged me to. I actually tried to hang up my virtual swimsuit a couple times. I was like, Coach, I just can't do this, man. He's like, stay with it. And I finally settled on being able to swim the whole race. And my time settled out to a time where I was getting within a fraction of a second every time I swam it in my mind.
Yeah.
And then the last time I ever swam for the team was a championship race, and I'd had a big break in between because I swam that time. I mean, I literally hit the time, which was 3 seconds faster than my fastest time ever.
Oh, nice.
So it really kind of hit home that, hey, there's something to this visualization. So, I kind of rolled with it on faith at that point.
Yeah.
And it had a powerful impact.
Yeah, it's not just anecdotal, but there's a lot of research to show that it's extremely, more beneficial than you would imagine. I mean, it's 70 to 80% as effective as actually doing the activity. It can be.
And I know with me, when I visualize things, I'm really trying to not just see it, but I'm trying to feel it as it's happening.
Right.
And I think that's one of the major benefits is there's some type of neural connections that are being made as you can feel your body going through that same range of motion that you're doing if you're swimming or if you're squatting or doing anything physical.
So there's two ways to visualize. You have first person and third person.
Right.
What's your preferred method?
I switch off between the two. Right. If I'm very, very comfortable with a skill, so let's say I've mastered the skill, then I'll use the first person, which is if I had a little helmet cam on. If I'm new to a skill, then it'll be third person, as if I'm watching myself from a different perspective. You could actually make the argument that visualization could be more effective than actually doing the task if you're doing the task improperly. Right. Because you can have perfect form in your mind, and when you practice with perfect form in your mind, that's better than practicing with shitty form in real world, right? So.
Yeah, you can get perfect practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think someday they should have the visualized CrossFit Games where you just do the whole thing in your mind.
I could totally win that.
I particularly like it if you're injured and you can't do the physical part. Well, now you can still kind of stay on your game, still practice in your head.
Right.
It's not as good as being able to practice if you're limited where you can't do anything at all. Definitely not as good, but it's way better than not doing any visualization at all.
Good point.
It's going to keep you in the game, keep you thinking about it, keep you fresh.
Keeps you alert, keeps you fresh.
Yeah, so we did he had us visualize the workout as we went. We were just standing there. And then we did for the warm up we did box breathing.
Right.
Which is something I don't do a lot of.
You should.
And so I should. It's I've done it here and there with some meditation with different people.
Right.
But I've never kind of done it on my own. But I've done it with some teachers. I thought that was really good. If someone wanted to find out more about box breathing, where would they look for that?
It's sealfit.com and probably our online training. It's not something that we throw a lot of that type of training out to the public unless they come on and join. It's like joining your newsletter at least. And so if you come and get on our email list, then you get more information.
It's not usually something like, oh my God, I'm going to go get box breathing information from SealFit. It's like you sign up for something else and you might get some information.
Yeah, you gotta want it. You gotta want to know what it is. We don't lead. We lead with the physical, and we want everyone to know that the physical training is pretty effective. But at every workout, it says pre-SOP and box breathing. And so if you're doing the workouts, eventually you're going to ask, what the hell are these things?
So what is it, though, for everyone that doesn't know?
No, box breathing essentially is it's a breathing method where we essentially breathe through our nose into our abdomen. And what we do is we'll just breathe in a box pattern. So we'll inhale to a certain count. And beginners, I recommend 4 to 5. Mm-hmm. You'll hold it for a count 4 to 5. So the same duration. And then exhale all the air out of your lungs for a count of 4 to 5, and then hold the bottom. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. People are like, I breathe. Okay, everyone breathes, but how often do you practice breathing? It's kind of like practicing visualization. If you don't practice it, then you don't do it very well.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people
don't do it
breathe
very well.
poorly. You can watch them compete, see them breathing poorly,
right?
And just can watch them melt down,
right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of key things here. If you, first of all, it helps you relearn or learn for some people how to breathe through your nose, and to be able to maintain that even as your intensity thresholds start to climb, right? And so during most training, stages of the SealFit WOD, I'm working on breathing through my nose and that deep diaphragmatic breath.
Yeah.
And if you breathe through your mouth, it kind of upsets the the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and so you can get a little bit of toxicity, which will then degrade your performance, especially over the long term. The other thing, this is not known by a lot of people, but when you breathe through your nose, it generates a little trace element of nitrous oxide, which helps deliver the carbon dioxide and oxygen to your cells, so it actually kind of boosts performance. Also, okay, there are, nerve bundles. This one's most commonly cited. They're nerve, behind your solar plexus region, kind of, I don't know exactly where, but as you breathe through your nose into your belly, then it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. Yeah. It doesn't happen when you breathe through your mouth. When you breathe through your mouth, it goes right into your upper chest. Right? If you breathe through your nose, it directs it kind of deep into your belly. So it's constantly sending a signal to calm you down. And then the act of focusing on the breath helps you concentrate, right? And so you're not thinking about what's for lunch or, big old pancake I want to have for breakfast. You're actually thinking about
that was the toughest
breath.
part. That was the toughest part, is blocking out that. I was visualizing pancakes and not the training, and the box breathing helped, I think.
Later on, the pancakes help too. So we're not writing off the pancakes.
No, the pancakes are extremely, beneficial for
important
recovery.
part of the training, of course.
Got to time that my nutrients here.
From the author of Unbeatable Mind comes Run Towards the Gunfire.
And we're back. Mark's giving us the greatest advice. We're running towards gunfire. We're not breathing. These are all
Be
things.
prepared for the known, the unknown, and the unknowable.
That's right.
Rumsfeld said.
Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed the, if you're listening only, you probably didn't get to enjoy it.
You missed out.
You missed out, so you need to go back, go to the website. You know where it's at, barbellshrugged.com. Watch that video. At least find that technique wad. Because are we making a technique wad? Yeah.
Yep. In the notes, you'll see all kinds of helpful bonus information as well. So get your butt over there.
Yeah. So now that you've got to see, or maybe you didn't get to hear what we just did, we were doing a lot of breathing exercises, and you had alluded to earlier that breathing is.
What's the big deal about breathing?
Yeah, it's like the new frontier or the last frontier. Is that what we're doing?
Let's try that drill. Let's just stop breathing for 5 minutes. Okay. We'll very quickly learn the importance of breathing. Now, all athletes quickly learn, right? Any real serious athlete learns that the breath holds the key to higher levels of performance. It holds the key to higher stages of awareness, right? Intention, attention. I mean, there's a lot in the breath. Right, it's amazing, but it's got to be trained. Interesting. I mean, improper,
like anything,
crazy, scattered, weak breathing doesn't have to be trained. That's pretty common, right? But the way we normally breathe is kind of like being couch potatoes, right? We're couch potato breathers. Performance breathing or advanced breathing is complete conscious control of the breath. Being able to direct it the way you want it, where you want it to go. Being able to use the breath as the center post. For your to ground you during training or during a firefight if you're a warrior. Being able to use the breath to stimulate your nervous system, to charge you up for a workout, to charge you up for battle, or to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system to calm you down or release, or to create a completely balanced, kind of equimonious. What's the word?
I like both versions of these words.
I have no idea what you're saying.
I don't use that word.
Equimonious
Equimonious
synergization of the breathing in the body. How's that?
Zachary. Yeah, so nice and balanced and calm. So from a leadership point of view, you want to be calm. You don't want to be out of control, right, mentally or emotionally. And the breath can get you there as well. So there's a lot of practical uses, and it feels freaking good. You know what I mean?
It did feel really good.
It was really good.
I feel like for me, when I'm trying to get something done really, really fast and I'm stressing about, like if I'm working on something and I'm just like, man, I got to eat a meal real quick, and I try to just go in the kitchen and eat a meal in like 5 minutes, I'm prepping, trying to just get back to work, I'll find that I'm doing a lot of that kind of like upper chest
really
breathing.
Shallow chest breathing. Right?
Yeah, after a while, I'll recognize it and I'll go, and I'll take like a big deep breath, and for the first time I'll feel the breath like down here. It'll feel like it's almost like it's been contracted for so long that I have to like really stretch it out.
Tight tissue.
Right.
And after the box breathing, I felt like that was like as loose as it's been in a long time, if not forever.
If the box breathing actually felt like a stretch of my intercostals.
Right. There's like a resistance trend. Then you're trying to get additional sips in as you move the interval up in time, which we'll describe.
Right. And part of that is physiological. You're expanding the breathing kind of vessel, right? You're expanding the chest. A lot of times, we just breathe in the upper chest, especially if you're a mouth breather. Now, mouth breathing is not, this hole here was used.
Fucking mouth breathers.
Come on. Damn mouth breathers. You see them all over the place. You can point them out a mile away. This is meant really primarily for eating, stuffing food into our gullet and communicating. Right. In both cases, we could probably do less of each, keep this thing sealed. And in breathing, the only time you really want to breathe through your mouth is if you need to take in massive quantity of oxygen, in particular, like during a workout, right, or a firefight or something like that. And so you will mouth breathe then. But as soon as you get back into the clear, it's back in through the nose. Now, there's a few reasons. The nose obviously will warm air, will cool air. That's important for us. It'll clean the air out. But it also, the nose directs the air into our abdomen or into our diaphragm or beneath that area. So if you imagine, just go like this through your mouth. Where does the air go? Right here, upper chest. Now breathe in through your nose.
You feel that? I mean, it's real. Yeah,
it's real. It's going deep into our. It's not. That's actually going into our belly, or else we'll be belching all the time. Yeah. But it feels like it's going deep into our belly, and you want to imagine it going down. Your belly is going to expand. And then your diaphragm will expand, and then your chest. And so you're literally getting a full measure of air, 3 times as much fuel. If you consider air, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, to be your primary source of fuel. Without it, right? How long do we live?
It makes all life impossible.
Correct.
A few minutes, maybe.
There's some life left.
The new paleo diet is to breathe like a mother, right? Breathe well. And your secondary source of fuel that's most important is fresh water. And it's hard food is your third, right? We always focus on the third source of fuel.
It's true.
And the most important fuel is your breath, and followed by fresh water, right? So we want to base.
It's too simple, Mark.
I know. Sorry.
Nobody wants simple solutions for complex problems. Jeez.
Enough with the breathing. Tell me how to crush my wad.
Exciting stuff.
All right.
You Barbell Shrugged guys completely lost it. If you're going to do a whole episode on breathing.
Which pre-workout? That's what's really important. Which magic supplements can help me PR?
Win the CrossFit Games.
I'll breathe, but how many drugs as well? Give me the good stuff.
All right. So the warrior breath, right? Your Rich Froning. I mean, he probably does this. I haven't talked to him.
I find that a lot of athletes just going.
They naturally do this.
Exactly. Like the highest performers, they're like, oh, I don't really pay attention to what I eat, or I don't pay attention to this or that. And if you were to just kind of observe them for a day, or they talk about like, I really don't do programming. Right. But then you follow them, it's like, well, they are.
They are doing it.
But they're so tuned in, and some people are just naturally more tuned in.
Right.
And then
some repetition of it.
And then other people, and most of that comes from experience. And then a lot of people need like all these tools to know what their heart rate is, or that's one of my explanations with HRV. Right. People ask about HRV. I was like, Rich Froning doesn't need HRV because he wakes up and he goes, oh, I need to go hard today.
Right.
I need to go easy. Mm-hmm. And other people need like this metric.
Right.
But anyways, I'm skipping ahead of you.
The more in tune you are with your body through breathing and meditation exercise, the more you can tell right away, like, what do I need today? And that's kind of the way I've gotten away. I have a loose structure of programming, but I allow myself to come in and kind of feel my body and get a sense for where I'm at, and then I'll modify the program, to meet that need. So
I find that gets more and more important as I get older and older too.
Yeah, for sure.
to have some flexibility.
Flexibility, right? Yeah.
Not in my body, because that doesn't exist there, but in terms of what I try to do with my body, be flexible.
Important. Yeah. So what you were alluding to, the kind of the charge yourself up, prepare you for battle, prepare you for the for peak performance in the WOD. We call that the warrior breath, and that's that forceful inhale through the nose, and then release. And that release is a complete relaxation, just like in that moment, all is good. And then, right, and we did a nine cycle, and then in the 9th one, now this is really interesting. This is really more for the mind. We held our breath, not to the point where we get dizzy and hallucinate or anything like that, although that will happen on occasion.
That's great.
It's to have that clarity and the concentration of in this space, we held our breath for at least a minute, right? I wouldn't time it, but a minute, maybe a minute and a half in some of those. There's not a lot of mental activity. Like you're not solving complex math problems. You're not thinking about your workout. You're just allowing your brain to like really, really focus and drop into that present moment awareness.
One of the things I noticed was, and I like to meditate, and
Sure.
and my style of meditation I've been following has been more like, you just walk, you sit down, you follow your breath.
Mindfulness, yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that, it might take me 10 or 15 minutes to drop into a state that I'm kind of going for, or maybe not going for. There's not really a goal there, but
Sure.
like it
Just to experience
occurs.
it, right.
Yeah, it's an experience, and then we came in here, and I noticed that within a few minutes,
Right.
in a very short period of time,
Right.
I dropped right
Boom.
in, and I was way more aware of my body than some of the other stuff that I do.
Right.
And so
I think that you hit on the head. The breath training is it's a rocket ship to concentration and meditative states, which then we anchor, right? So when at the end of it, you note that state, you note what got you in there, and then you eventually can get back there with a single breath, right? That single breath can be a perfect breath, and your brain just goes.
Yeah, you're just training
you know
your
where
mind.
that state is, and you just drop, and then you're ready for anything, right? All your senses are on full alert, but you're present. That's when your power is going to be most available to you. There's no concepts getting in the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You don't have to think. All the thought has been removed, and you're just perceiving reality, and you're ready for action, whatever that might be. And if you're trained, that action will flow out of you really well.
Yeah.
Just in a simple, very practical way, if you do that every morning, because I could even feel myself towards the end. We were doing 10 seconds was the maximum. So 10 seconds in, hold, exhale. So by the end of that, I'm a little bigger. I'm consuming more.
That was the box breathing.
I can feel myself having to go, okay, look, you can feel it getting a little short. You want to take a breath. Hold on. Stay. And I would feel my concentration sort of peak, like nothing else get in my way, but a really kind of a peak little intensity. And then when 10 seconds gets to release, I just felt like I told you, I felt like you see just black space behind your eyelids. But then that moment of just release, it felt like the room was 100 yards in every direction. It was just me in a big black space. It felt such like a powerful relief. And I imagine if you just build that skill, where you start feeling, okay, I'm freaking out with a little bit of my breath. I'll just hold on, then it'll be over.
Yeah.
I mean, how beneficial is that during a tough WOD where most people freak the fuck out, and that's what stops your performance, not your body. You just lost control.
You're training your willpower, your intentionality through the breath. And ultimately, if you look at a workout, that's what we lose, right? I mean, obviously you fatigue, but
you're losing control.
You lose it with the breath and your heart rate well before your muscular fatigue in most cases, right? And so that's what throws people off. So if we can keep that under control and learn how to activate that recovery breath, in an instant, right? So let's say you're in the middle of a set, let's say you're doing grace, and you unless again you can just bang out 30 perfect clean and jerks, which I can't, I'm going to be doing them in maybe 3 sets of 10. As soon as that 10th rep, right, I'm not like going, bleh. I am literally just going, and it brings me back to the same state we were in the mind gym, and boom, energy rushing back in, mind's clear, there's the barbell, I merge with it again, boom, there we go. Actually, that's a clean and jerk, not a snatch. But
so
we use the breath not just for an energy state management during the training, but in an interval sense, we use the breath to come right back to the presence, because in the present, if we're in receive mode, think about this concept of yin and yang. In receive mode, energy can flow back in. And if we invite it in visually, so that we add a little visualization to that, boom, put the barbell down, inhale, visualize just white light energy just streaming into your body, just flooding your body, right? Exhale, that nice calm ha. Next like in ha. All that light energy in, boom. Guess what? You just recovered in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Back on the bar, go. So the breath can be a remarkable tool.
Welcome to Technique WOD. I'm Mike Bledsoe here, staying with Mark Devine.
Today we're going to be checking out some box breathing, some tactical breathing. He's basically going to teach us how breathing can make us better people and better athletes. Make sure to check out episode 166 of Barbell Shrugged. There we discuss all this stuff in a lot of detail. So make sure that as you're watching this, to stop driving. If you happen to be driving, you shouldn't be watching this while you're driving, but I know some of you do. Sit down in a nice quiet room and do this along with us.
So you probably noticed how important breathing is to training in your life, and we're going to spend a little time training. You know, what my philosophy is that those things that are most important and critical in our life, we should train them, and I feel the same way about breathing. When you take control of your breath, you relearn how to breathe deeply using the full lung capacity, learn how to breathe through your nose, learn how to breathe in a controlled pattern. All sorts of cool things start happening. We can perform better, we can think more clearly, we can make better decisions while under duress. We're better, basically, leaders because we're able to be in more control of our body and our mind, our physiology, and our psychology. So, but it doesn't happen by random. Just like, throwing up a snatch PR isn't random. You've got to work toward it. Same thing with breathing. So there's two drills I'm going to teach here. One is called the tactical breath. This is the breath that Navy SEALs use to stay calm and centered in a firefight. It's very, very simple. While we do this, I want you to put your right hand on your belly. So what we want to do essentially is begin by activating the breath by pulling our belly out or pushing our belly out, and let that pull the breath in through our nostrils, deep into our belly, and then just press it back in. So this is called a belly breath. This is your first drill. So just do that 3 times. So your belly goes out, and then you press it back in, and you try to touch your spine with your belly button. And what that's doing is pulling the breath deep into your lungs, as opposed to just filling the upper part of your lungs. For instance, when you breathe through your mouth like this, your chest is going to go out, and you're just using the upper part of your lungs. Now we want to breathe into our belly and then activate our diaphragm. So this is a 2-part breath. So it goes belly, diaphragm. So your chest is going to start to lift, and then diaphragm, belly. Okay, do that one more time. Good. And then the third is a 3-part breath. So we'll go belly, diaphragm, and then chest. So we're going to have like a slight raise of our shoulders. So we'll go belly, diaphragm, and then chest. And then chest, diaphragm, belly. Okay? Now the goal here with this is just to show you those 3 parts of your breath where your belly's doing some work to pull air down, diaphragm's doing work to pull air more into the center of your chest, and then your upper chest is doing its work, and all the muscles of your breathing mechanism are getting engaged in the act of breathing. Now, the other thing I want to mention is it's really important that we breathe through our nose when we can during performance. Okay, so there's times when we just can't do it because we need to get the volume of oxygen in. But when you can, like if you set a kettlebell down or you move, in between major activities, then we breathe through our nose because the breath through the nose, there's a couple things that happen. One is it releases trace amounts of nitrous oxide, which help deliver the oxygen and the nitrogen, the carbon dioxide, the fuel to our cells, so it boosts our performance. If you just breathe through your nose, it doesn't happen. And 2 is we're going to stimulate some nerve cells that exist in your kind of nervous system beneath or behind your sternum, near your near your spine, that trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. So that is your kind of rest and digest. You're all jacked up with fight or flight, so when you breathe deeply through your nose toward your belly or into your belly, then you're calming yourself down. If you calm your body down, then you're calming your mind down, right? That's a 2-step process. All right, so a lot of information there coming at you rapid fire, but this breath, the tactical breath, is a way to calm yourself down. So the way it's going to work is we're going to do a 4-count inhale, belly, diaphragm, chest, and then we're going to do a long exhale. Don't worry about the count. If you need to, it can also be a 4-count, but I actually prefer that it be a 6 or an 8 count because that's going to really calm me down. So inhale, 4-count. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale.
You can constrict your throat a little bit so you can have that little wind tunnel sound. Get it all out. As soon as you exhale the last, that's when the inhale starts. Good. It's a great breathing exercise to do again, like in the middle of a workout or anytime but a tense situation. Just inhale, belly, diaphragm, chest. Immediately just let that air release. Exhale. And take it all the way to the bottom. And then as you press the last bit of air out, then let the inhale begin. It's also okay to have a slight pause between the inhale and the exhale. You'll feel that kind of moment of presence when you do that. So we call this the tactical breath. Also, the 1-2 breath in that the ratio is 4 count in, that's 1, meaning representing the number 1, and 8 count out, representing the number 2. So 2 times 4. So it's inhale, exhale. Super calming. If you've been following along and doing the training, which I hope you have, then you'll probably feel a lot calmer already. So continue that breath while I set up the second training. I mentioned that breath, that tactical 1-2 ratio breath, is to be used during performance. So when you're in the boardroom, when you're in an intense setting like a workout, a training session, or a firefight, that's what we use. That inhale, slow exhale, we stay calm and centered. However, the second training thing that I want to do is really meant for a controlled environment, like we're sitting here right now with Barbell Shrugged, in a calm environment where we have control. We're not going to get a mortar lobbed at us, right? We're not going to hear the 3, 2, 1 timer. We've got time to practice. So this is practice time. We're going to practice our breathing. It's great to do this after a workout. It's great to do it in the morning when you wake up, in the evening when you go to bed. We do it at the end of every workout and at the end of every warrior yoga training session. Sometimes we'll throw it in the beginning. But we try to do this training maybe 3 to 4 times a day for a minimum of 5 minutes. It has a lot of the benefits of meditation, but it's much more focused in that we're concentrating on controlling our breath, getting all the benefits of the physiology and the psychology in terms of control and centered and focus. And also because we're kind of rewiring our breathing pattern, our automatic breathing pattern, it's much easier for us to click into that tactical breath at will or even automatically, unconsciously when we're in a stressful situation. Again, you won't perform a perfect snatch unless you train a perfect snatch. Same thing with the breath. So the box breathing is meant for training the tactical breath for performing. Now the box breathing practice is really similar, except what we're going to do is just add a hold at the top or at the inhale and a hold at the exhale or suspension, right? So it looks like this. We go inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hence the box pattern. So this is a 1, 1, 1, 1 ratio as opposed to the 1, 2 ratio of the tactical breath. All right, so let's do some training here. We're going to do about a 5-minute session of box breathing. The breath will be at a 5 count. So we're going to do a 5 count inhale, 5 count hold, 5 count exhale, 5 count hold. I'm going to use a sound application on my iPhone. If you're interested, this app it's pretty good. It's the best one I've found. And it's called Pranayama Universal Breathing. Pranayama. 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 And so when I start this app, you're going to hear a sound that corresponds to the inhale, a different sound for the hold, a different sound for the exhale, a different sound for the exhale hold. So it's really a nice way to follow along. Gives us something for our mind to focus on. So you concentrate on the sound and the count. If you don't want to count, then just follow the sound. So there's 2 ways to do it. All right? So here we go. We're going to begin by exhaling all the air out of our lungs. Good. And inhale. Hold. Exhale. You can keep your eyes open, but soften your gaze or close your eyes. Hold in the exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Relax. Clear your mind. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Clear your mind. In. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. With this pattern, you'll be doing 3 breaths per minute. Exhale. Hold. In. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Just a few more rounds. Really focus, commit. Inhale. Clear your mind. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Feeling good, looking good. I'd be in Hollywood. Exhale. Hold. One more. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Good. Note the difference, like how you feel physically and also how clear your mind is, and just kind of benchmark that. You should feel really calm and relaxed. Make that a performance benchmark.
Last but not least on the show, We have one of the most motivating moments we ever personally experienced on the podcast.
And he was the only guy that could actually shut us up.
Tony the Fridge. Now, Tony had a tough year after doing the podcast in 2015, but 2016, I think he's back out on the road with the fridge on his back. It's an incredible story. Let's show him some love. Let's help him get back out there. Enjoy what Tony the Fridge has to say. If you don't go to the gym motivated after hearing this guy talk, you ain't alive, man. Enjoy it.
We are up here in Vermont. Today we've got Tony the Fridge hanging out with us.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Thanks for joining us, man.
We're going to be talking about, you do some like ultra endurance type stuff while carrying a fridge. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Everybody's like, whoa, what?
Did I hear him correctly?
Yeah. And it never crossed my mind to carry a fridge that wasn't going into an apartment or in a house. But make sure you go to barbellshrugged.com, sign up for the newsletter before we get too far into this. Just stop what you're doing, sign up for that, and then we'll let you know when we come places like up here to Vermont or whatever. I'm having some issues. We don't know what they are. But Tony,
how you doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, hey, thanks for inviting us, guys.
Yeah, we've been hearing a bunch of cool stories about you, strapping fridges to your back, running 100 miles at a time.
Yeah.
I heard you did 40 marathons in 40 days carrying a fridge.
Yeah,
a fridge like that fridge. Yeah. A big ass fridge.
Yeah, it's a real fridge. They on the challenge you're talking about, I ran the length of Great Britain, and what you don't know was that on day 5 I broke my left femur. Which
you broke your femur.
Yeah.
You broke your leg on day 5 out of 40.
Yes,
it's like
Tony,
the hardest bone to break. How'd you do that?
Well, basically, all day long that day, I'm running down the road in Scotland through the mountains, and so there's hundreds of people, kind of fridge fans in Great Britain, and come and say hello to me.
Fans, that's great.
Fridge fans, yeah.
Are you more famous there than here?
Well, probably yes.
Okay,
that's why I'm here.
To get more famous here.
Yeah.
People are gonna be looking at it now, man.
The whole thing about the fridge, and seriously, is that I want people to ask questions on why. Because the why is really, really important. And yes, it is that I've lost my mind a little bit. There's no doubt about that. But I would certainly recommend that.
Well, you're in good company.
Sometimes you really need to lose your temper, don't you? I think the world was shaped by unreasonable people, and I certainly fit into that category.
So why do you carry this fridge?
The wife wouldn't let me have the cooker. No, the truth is that I needed something really heavy. Cancer kept coming back, knocking on my door, and taking another family member. So I don't know. I hope you guys haven't experienced, but I know the listeners. There'll be people who've lost people they love to cancer, and this awful disease slowly takes somebody you love, and you watch them, disintegrate in front of you, and that burden of that awful disease is on the whole family. So, the first time I ran with the fridge was for a crazy bet. Yeah, I wanted to raise money for cancer charity, and I couldn't because I was well known as a good runner. And, it was always the people in the office who didn't run who got the donations, So, out of frustration, I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to run that half marathon, the Great North Run in England. I'll run it carrying a fridge.
What made you think fridge?
Was that the first thing you went towards?
I did think about it, before I chose a fridge, and it was mainly down to moving parts. A fridge is big and it's heavy. A cooker, things have to be taken off. The grills and that come off to be cleaned. I needed something big and heavy. Put it on a harness, stick it on my back. And that's why.
And everybody knows how heavy a refrigerator is. They can sympathize.
I was wondering how you did it. You have a harness, and there's a harness that holds it on you, so you don't have to use your hands or wrap your arms around it or try to balance it. It's like strapped to your back.
There's a great story about the harness. There's actually a phenomenon which America will soon become aware of, and the phenomenon's called fridge love.
Fridge love.
Fridge love, yeah.
Are these like fridge fuckers?
It's spreading right now.
Well, yeah, basically what it is, if you come across a chap who's, when you see the magnitude of the task ahead when I'm carrying a fridge, it's not easy. It's a really, really brutal thing to do. I wouldn't recommend it. And
I'm not going to take your recommendation.
When people see what I'm going through and how passionate I am about what I'm doing, then it has an effect, because they most likely will know of somebody that's been affected by cancer, and when they know why, traffic comes to a halt, people are very respectful, people help me everywhere I go. It is a really wonderful sense of community that you get. I lost a dad when I was 12, and like lots of people lose loved ones and lose parents. I didn't handle it very well at all. And in our case, the community didn't come to our house, and my mum, the widow, we were all lost, and I really didn't have such a good belief in community anymore. I didn't like the world very much, and when I got upset, I would just run away, and I ran and ran and ran and ran, and I never looked back. I never knew where I was going, so that wasn't a worry. Mm-hmm. I just lived in a moment and just kept moving. When I was tired, I slept. When I woke up, I started running again. When my mind wanted to think about my life, I shut it up, clammed it up and locked it in a box. The only thing I thought about was breathing, moving forward, living, surviving. Basic things. How do my feet hurt so bad? What can I eat? Just little things like that. No thoughts whatsoever. So when you see me running down a road on a motorway in the middle of nowhere, that's pretty much what's going through my head. I'm no different. The doctors said as a child I was emotionally disturbed. I still am. I'm actually more disturbed.
Wow. So the fridge is just a great way to grab people's attention, and they identify you carrying that fridge with just raising cancer awareness.
Yeah, it's basically, what started out as a fundraising stunt. There was outcomes that you just don't expect. You don't expect that people from all around the world start messaging you on Facebook and Twitter and, sending you letters and photographs and telling you stories about, how their children lasted a little bit longer because they wanted to see the fridge man in the marathon.
Oh, God.
Wow. Some really heavy, sad stories, and these things you just don't expect, and for me it took over my life, and for the last few years I gave up my business, my job. I walked out on everything I was doing. I stood up from my desk, and I knew I couldn't go back to work until I was finished this challenge and what I was going to do. And I've always been heading to America. My uncle lived here for most of his life, came back to England. He was like a second father to me because I lost my father when I was young, and I was so excited, 40-odd-year-old, and put my Uncle Charles coming back from California, and he's going to settle down with his sisters, my mum and my aunt, and be close to me. He's going to take him to the football match, and we're going to have a great time. And then Mum has to break it to me that he's coming home to die. And he was like a cross between Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Evel Knievel. And
Wow.
We called him Bumpsy. He was an adventurer, I kind of got his spirit, I think.
Yeah.
I'd say to anybody out there, if you ever lose somebody you love, keep them alive by doing something they would do. Be adventurous if they're adventurous. Read a book if they like to read. Buy a dog if they had a dog. Keep them alive. Do things, take some of their beliefs and their moral values and bring them into your life, and then you're never going to lose them. And that's basically what I did. So I had this conversation with my Uncle Charles and said, okay, then you're going to die, what we're going to do? I've got to do something. I'm going to run across America as a tribute to your life. And what can I do? And he said, well, when you get to the other side, if that's what you're going to do, I need you to go to Lake Zaka in California. I used to swim there with the boys and fish and log cabins. He says, whenever I'm in a bad place, I just think about them days,
Beautiful sunny
Wow.
days. Everything was going great. California was brilliant. Business was brilliant. Everything was great, and me and the boys would be swimming in that lake. So go for a swim for me. So the first thing we need to rewind a little bit. Yeah, I've run across, countries and done lots of things before. I don't know how I survived some of the brutality of, and the magnitude of the challenges I've done are really hard for me to even look back on at times. So pure luck and community got me through most of them. I'm not a Superman. I'm just an ordinary bloke. I'm nothing more than that. I'm as ordinary as grass. I'm not some crazy ultra athlete with, all these support crews and what have you. No, I'm going to come across America, and my wife and kids will be in a motorhome, and our whole life will come to a halt. My wife's going to sell her business, and I'm going to take 6 months of my life paying a tribute and hopefully giving hope to people fighting cancer. Hopefully all of America will wonder why this crazy guy's running down the highway with a fridge on his back. But I'm going to run a marathon a day, and
oh man,
I will slowly be depleted and bashed around by this fridge, and it's something I have to consider my own mortality when I'm doing something like this. I've come close to the dark side a few times. I've been in trouble. I've been found in the middle of motorways unconscious. All kinds of things have happened to me on my adventures, so it's not going to be easy. And I don't for a moment stand here absolutely confident that I'm going to make it to Los Angeles. But, the whole Tony the Fridge story has been about me taking on impossible journeys. How I got through to Land's End, 1,052 miles from John O'Groats in Scotland all the way through England, down the East Coast, popped into London to see the Queen, and then off to Land's End. And, that was 1,052 miles. I barely made it. In fact, 3 or 4 days after it had ended, I remember turning to my wife and saying, "Babe, is it really over?" So, don't think I'm just going to run across America, because that's just not how it's going to be. I'm running 2,811 miles from New York,
wow, dude,
all the way through to Los Angeles.
To run across the country without the fridge is a Herculean, amazing feat. We were at Princeton, and the guy gave the keynote. Mike and I were there. What was his name? I don't know his first name. Ulrich was his last name.
I can't remember.
He's I forget the name of the book. It's been a long couple of days, but it was a Herculean effort for him to get across the country just running.
Yeah.
Just with people around him, no extra load. So it is quite the challenge. It's extraordinary to hear you say you're going to just boldly go into the void because this is what you believe in 100%, and you're going to see your best effort will come. I guess you got to have faith that something will summon out of you you'll rise.
I've only one time in all the times I've been doing challenges actually come really, really close to death. And I look back I call it the Rocky moment, and where I'm in the last round and I think I'm beaten, and excuse me, because it gets a bit emotional sometimes. So I turn to the wife, who's support runner running with me, and and when you've finished, it's never like you imagine. And in a way, the weight was lifted off my shoulders because I knew it was over. I couldn't go another step, But the crowd, in this half marathon, the Great North Run, the biggest half marathon in the world, 56,000 runners in it. I started the race. I've been celebrated by the crowd. I had a broken leg. I was in a bad way. I just ran the length of the country, and I knew I couldn't make it a mile. But then I heard that little Matthew Spurs, local lad, cystic fibrosis, big fan, was waiting at the Tyne Bridge, and that's a mile away. So I said to the wife, maybe I can make it to Matthew. And she's like, God's sake, you're not going to do it. You were supposed to just wave at the start of the race.
Wow.
So I'm just going to run to Matthew. And so everybody's cheering every single step. The whole world's going crazy. And I get to the bridge, and I can't find Matthew. We get lost in the crowd, and So I keep saying to the wife, well, as soon as they stop cheering, I'll just, we're a couple of miles down the roads where our business is. When we get to the business, I'll stop. As soon as they stop cheering, I'll just walk off. But people just cheered louder and louder, singing songs about me, chanting my name and cheering me, patting me on the back and saying well done. And but I was finished. And a few tears came and I felt happy inside. I knew I couldn't have given any more than I've given, so I just need to go a few more steps, and I know it's over. And I wasn't going to make it to the end of the race, but people just kept cheering, and I just kept going a few more steps. So I learned something that day. I learned that if you can get 3 steps, you can get pretty much anywhere, as long as you don't think beyond the 3 steps. So that's all I kept doing. I just kept taking 3 more steps, and eventually I made it to the end. And so, but that was after a 1,000-mile challenge. So this is 2,811 miles, different temperatures, different foreign country, so all kinds of different problems. I'm not going to know many people, etc., and people aren't going to know really what I'm about a lot of the time. So, the magnitude of the challenge is extraordinary, and well, to be honest, it's impossible. But then again, I think, well, it is possible. And I kind of hold on to that it is possible. Maybe not be me that's able to do it, but it is possible. And I think it's possible to beat cancer. I think that we could be just a few $100,000 away from finding the answer. Because
3 more steps, you never know.
Only money can pay for research, and so that's we have to feed that beast and keep taking it on. But cancer knocked on my door. I didn't start this fight, and I think if cancer was a human being assassinating children, parents, and how many graveyards have got Einsteins in them, people who could have changed the world, people who could have found a cure for cancer, could have found a cure for many things. How many amazing, wonderful people are lying in graveyards taken from us by cancer? So, we've got to make a stand as the human race against this awful disease. Everyone's got to take it on, because it's getting worse. In the next, 20 years, up to 50% of us are going to be affected by cancer. What if there's a tipping point? What if it's a plague that's going to wipe us out? So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to take it on. And this crazy old bloke with a fridge. What I'm doing, I'm not a fundraiser. I believe people go to work. Some of them work in mines. Some of them work in high buildings. Some of them police officers risking their lives on a daily basis. These people go to work, they work really hard, and then they see this crazy guy with this huge burden taking on this Sisyphus task. Sisyphus was a Greek mythology, wasn't it? So,
with the boulder up the hill?
Yeah, he just had to keep pushing that stone ball up the hill, so that's me. That's my task. And so all the hard-working people realise what it's about, and then they make a donation. So we have donators, and then we have people like me. I'm a catalyst. I'm here to cause a fire. I'm here to start an argument, and I'm gonna
fucking awesome, man.
I'm gonna kick a horse with cancer is what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Picked on the wrong bloke. I'm that guy in the pub that you don't hit over the head with a chair, but I'll still be fucking standing there looking at you.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And so cancer came, knocked on my door, and it's time I ended this fight once and for all.
Wow, that is crazy inspiring. I don't think anyone's ever almost brought me to tears, or pretty much brought me to tears.
Or left us
before.
basically
Holy
speechless.
Shit.
So if someone wanted to help contribute to your fight and help you specifically, is there something that they could do? Is there any place that you need help, and there's something that they could do to help you?
Yeah, definitely. And if you ask my family, they'll tell you I do need help as well.
I tell you,
but especially as my teenagers, they say, "Yeah, Dad needs help." I'm going to run across America. I'm going to set off most probably in June. I'm going to run the Cannonball Run. and we're going to be socially interacting with everybody through Twitter and podcasts and Facebook. I have a website, tonythefridge.com, and I carry a GPS, a military standard GPS, on me at all times, so you can actually click on the page, find the fridge, and that'll zoom in. I actually met a great chap this weekend, introduced to me by Joe DeSena, who's one of the top guys at Google. So there's still an opportunity and a possibility that I'm going to have a Google Street camera on me.
Oh, wow.
So you can log in and actually see what I can see as I run along the road.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you know,
have like a Google Glass or something.
Yeah. So this is something that really could happen. The Google chap was really excited about it. So put a bit of pressure there and see if we can get that.
We have
going.
a friend at YouTube that does live streaming stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we could reach out to him and maybe.
You know, he's probably listening to this right now. If he is, he should contact you.
Yeah, he should, definitely. You know, I think the phenomenon that the fridge can cause, and when I say the fridge, I mean the sight of this chap with a fridge. It's not me. I'm not a superhero or anything like that. It could be one of you guys carrying that fridge.
No.
So no, really, no. It could.
His job.
No, really, it could be one of you guys. It could be all three years actually. But but what happens when people see that fridge, and they know what it represents. They know it's about fighting cancer, and they can see the turmoil that I'm going through. It has an effect upon people, and a brilliant effect, a Spartan-like effect. I get to a busy junction where the traffic's moving fast, etc. That traffic will come to a gradual halt. It's like a parting of the waves. And the other thing about traffic, when traffic's moving past you and you're running along the side of the highway, you get cheers from the cars. People jump, they'll pump the air, go on the fridge, and they shout stuff. If you're in Scotland, they shout like, "What the fuck are you doing?" but like the rest of the world, like in England, it's like, "Go on, son, go on, son." But when traffic's parked, it's like those Spartans resting on the hill, and the windows come down, and they share your air. And you can see that thought. No doubt they're probably thinking about people they've lost, thinking about the challenges that they've seen cancer put on their families. And there's an eerie feel to the air sometimes, where groups of people en masse going quiet because you're passing by. So it's not me; it's that demonstration of burden, that demonstration of that cancer. It just takes them back to their loved ones. That's what they're thinking about. I know that's what it is. I get so many messages. If you ever go on any of my Just Giving pages and Facebook page, watch the videos on my Facebook page on Tony the Fridge. You'll have some great fun. Some of them are a little bit brutal. Apologise for the last one. That's just gone up. But you really need to see sometimes what we're really going through. So but there is some quite tough scenes in there, so sorry about that. But what I would really like people to see is the comments. Look at the comments that people leave, and you realise that my sadness and my grief is the same for lots of other people. I'm not unique. We're being decimated by this awful disease, and we've got to start, demonstrating different habits to our children, and we need to guide the rebellious youth, which I know when I grow up, I'm going to tell all the adults really what it's like to be young. I'm 50 years old. I still feel like one of those rebellious youngsters, but we have to show them that to eat healthy and what have you. We need to beat cancer in lots of ways. We need to beat cancer by making donations to cancer charities. It doesn't have to be mine. I will not measure my success by the amount of money in the bank for cancer at the end. How can you do that? I've met mothers of children. I could tell you so many stories Yeah, it's not about the money. That's an outcome that we can hope for. The more the merrier. Money will help beat cancer, but it's about hope. It's a symbol of hope. It's a symbol of me saying, do you know what? Let me take a bit of that weight for a bit, just for a little bit. I'm going to run across America for you, and when I'm finished, I'm going to disappear into the ether. I'll change my image. I'll shave off the goatee. I won't look the same, and you'll never hear from me again. Because, just these things, they're whimsical tales. They're only meant to last so long. I've run my last runs in the UK. I've got a commitment with London Marathon next year, which will be a bit of PR and what have you, promoting the run across America. But I'm still being asked every day, come and run a my marathon, come and run a my half marathon, come and run a my 10K, and I really, really appreciate all that support. But it gets to a point. Where I have to think, am I going there for the cheer? And I'm not. It's I'm going to see people who know what it's about. They've got the message. I need the drama. We need to put it on a new audience. We need to shake up America. This is how the whole thing began. My Uncle Charles, he made his home in Santa Barbara, California, and several towns around there over the years. I've got family all over the States and in New Mexico. All of my cousins and what have you are spread all around this beautiful country. So I made a promise to a man, which he wouldn't mind if I didn't keep it, but I would. And I made a promise to him that I was going to run across America as a tribute to his life, and I'm going to go for that swim. And I just hope that people see it for what it is. It's not a demonstration of I'm not Joe DeSena. I'm an ordinary bloke, as ordinary as grass. And I'm really just going to take on this impossible challenge, because cancer is an impossible challenge. And if I can get to the end of mine, maybe you could get the end of yours. That's all it's about. It's nothing else. All I ask is people follow me on Twitter, Tony the Fridge. Google Tony the Fridge and it'll just take you. You'll see all the crazy stories and daft videos on YouTube and what have you. There's even me singing on stages with bands behind me after running multiple marathons. Yeah, it's all a little bit nuts and a little bit surreal. But we're going to make a whole new story when we run across the States, and I think that that this is going to be one hell of a fantastic phenomenon. I think that we're going to take our mind off the bad things, and we're going to get together and we're going to instill some belief to those people fighting this disease on a daily basis.
And show the world that this can be carried.
Yeah,
all the way to the finish line.
I do a little chat around the primary schools and that, and my chat's always headed, if I can do that, you can do this.
Yeah.
And that's all it's really about.
Basically what you do, right, you're climbing up, you do not allow your voice inside of you that makes decisions, that congratulates you, that gets scared, or that voice is not allowed to speak. So, I don't know if you've ever been sat on a step at the end of your garden or whatever, contemplating making a decision, whether it's quitting smoking or quitting a relationship or wanting to buy this car or not, whatever it is. You're sitting there trying to make a decision, and you're having a conversation with yourself, and one's saying, well, I think you should get it, you deserve it, and the other one says, well, yeah, I know, but what if another big bill comes in, or I have another hurricane and it wrecks the shed and whatever. So you have that debate. I wondered to myself, who are you talking to? There's the three of you in this conversation, because it's like one listening and then one saying not and the other one saying yes. That's three of you there. So what I do when I go on my challenge is I shut those voices down. They're not allowed to speak. When I've run up a huge hill, 15 miles of climb all day, whatever, I get to the top, I do not allow that voice to say, well done, Tony. Because that same voice that says, well done, you be very careful of that. Because your subconscious is huge. And your conscious mind is that. That subconscious, all it wants to do is protect you. You try and do a squat, it says, no, you'll fall over. It wants to protect you from yourself. It doesn't trust you with yourself. That subconscious is there just keep you, to help you survive. So my only way of getting through these things is not to allow it to kid me along. Because that voice that says, you know, you've done so well, you've run 20 miles, most of them uphill, what a good day you've had. Congratulate yourself. Take a look back. Look at what you just did. That voice, in 10 minutes' time, comes back. You know what he says? You know what it is? You've done so well today. I know you were going to do 26 miles, but you've done so well today. I think you can go home and have a sleep and a big smile on your face. Hey, why not have a pizza? And you quit. People who quit feel good about quitting at the moment they quit, because that subconscious didn't allow it. It's a survival thing. It doesn't want you to feel bad, so it gives you reasons to quit. So my problem is, when I do what I do, I say, shut the fuck up. Don't even speak to me. I'm not interested. The only thing I think about is assess my situation, think about, am I running properly, is my posture correct, do I need to eat? And I could eat anything when I'm in that mode. I can eat roadkill. I've got to get through it. And whatever it is, protein or whatever, I don't think... you see, because I don't have that voice inside that says, do you know you don't like the taste of whatever that is? You just shut down. I'm a physical mass. If that's protein, I'm eating it. So I'm able to do that because I don't have that voice. Now what happens? What happened in the 1,000-mile challenge? After I'd finished, I let it out. And that voice is not very happy. It's been caged for 40 days. That subconscious of not being allowed to speak. And then it's out. I think that's what happens to Vietnam veterans and soldiers, etc. It's not just about the experiences, it's the fact that that scared inner child's been closed down. You talk to war heroes. I've been very lucky in what I do. I've met a lot. So you speak to soldiers and you see how did you get through it? You know, me doing what I do, I'm fascinated, and I always get the ear of a hero and how to find out about what was he thinking. And he speaks like me, and he says, well, actually, you know, you very quickly you're frightened for a little while, and you realise actually can't have fears around here. That'll cost the life of my colleagues. I need to be on it and in it and doing it. I'm not here to think, I'm here to do. So that's the mode that I have to get in. But there's a post-challenge stress disorder that comes and gets you. So I've got to hope that that doesn't come and get me while I'm still on this challenge, because it's 3 times the size of running across the UK. Yeah, you know, maybe a little bit short mileage wise, 2,811 miles instead of 3,000 miles, but you know what, that's not much to argue about. It's the different terrain, the other side of the world, no support that they've got at home, etc. You know, in the UK, someone's only ever 10 hours away from going and getting something that you need from your town or etc. I'm in a different land, I'm in a foreign country. I know nothing of the place, so this is where you're really going to have to rely on a bit of luck and the hospitality of the locals to help get you through, you know. So you're going to be a dark and scary place at times. It's not going to just it's not just going to happen.
We'll see if we can get every CrossFit gym in America to help you out.
Yeah, I think really, I'm a normal bloke who's emotionally disturbed.
I was just gonna
but I mean, I must admit, I think I think I should do T-shirts, right? Which
I think emotionally disturbed people are the ones that make the biggest
I am
difference in the
emotionally
world.
disturbed.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
brothers, bro.
I'm not
We're
superhuman. I'm emotionally disturbed. That's what it is. So basically, and that is true because my emotions aren't normal. I genuinely, I don't have any fear.
We'd already lived through it.
I kind of just think, well, whatever it is. I don't hope for sunny days. I don't hope for rain. I don't hope for anything when I do what I'm doing. I just get on with the shit in front of us. And like that little kid when I was once running away, I don't look over my shoulder. Doesn't matter how far I've gone, and doesn't matter how far I've got to go. I just stay right in that moment and get through what I've got to get through right there and then. And that's what I can do. That's my skill.
You should be good and fired up now. I think Mike and I both want to wish you guys an amazing 2016. We hope you have an awesome year next year. Set big goals, embrace change. I know we're taking on a lot of change. We have a lot of stuff we're super excited to show you. I know I have many, many awesome resolutions in line, Michael, starting with to put a little boat into a tiny glass bottle. Gonna write a spiritual book.
I'm gonna start making better shows. 2016 is the year that the show goes to the next level. Tune in.
Join the conversation every week after the episode over at barbellshrugged.com. This is also where you'll find new episodes of Barbell Shrugged, Technique Wad, Nuggets and Pearls, Barbell Business, Get Change, plus new articles every day on our daily blog, written by us, guests of the show, and some of the biggest names in strength and conditioning. So, go there and leave a comment now.
Oh my gosh, wow, that's so cool. Yay, that's so awesome.
Did you like this video? If so, subscribe to our channel and share this with your friends.
And if you want even more free, awesome resources to help you reach your fitness goals, plus some updates that we only share over email, head over to barbellshrugged.com and sign up for the newsletter.